I'm here with Abe Dinkus right now, the one and only Abe Dinkus, you know.
All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, tonight is the death penalty debate. We have Counterpoints versus Michael Hatch. I'll let them come up and introduce themselves a little bit here, and then we'll get started. Michael Hatch, welcome in.
Howdy.
Welcome in. Michael, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself real quick?
Sure. Yeah. I am doing some debates recreationally this summer. I'm a big fan of the platforms and a lot of these channels. I have a full-time teaching job outside of this, so I'll be here for a little bit in summer and then not anymore. But I'm passionate about like politics and military, global strategy kind of stuff. And I have an old master's degree in global policy and strategy. But I ended up being an educator, and I love it. Getting a new master's degree in that. That's what I'm specializing in now. That's my new lane. But I still like coming in here and chatting politics. And I've been a fan of Counterpoints channels a long time too, and I usually like a lot of his takes. I like his art stuff too. But yeah, I'm excited to just kind of get into this, and hopefully we can be a little productive and original, hopefully today. So
fun. All right, Connor.
Yeah, so my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps law enforcement veteran, and I'm trying to be a real Republican, a Republican who is honest, has integrity, nuance, and objectives. If I was to put myself on the political map, I would consider myself a conservatarian. I think that we should be maximally free like libertarians do, but then I still believe in a state, and I will have some conservative takes every now and then, like the fact that capital punishment can be justified. So if you want to check anything out that I do, I run several channels: Counterpoints 40K, where I break down Warhammer; Counterpoints Sci-Fi and Star Wars, where I break down those topics; Counterpoints Politics, where I'm going to be posting my VODs; and then I'm also live on VALOR Media Network, 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, so tonight we have the debate prompt. Let me throw it onto the screen so that everybody can see it. The U.S. should utilize the death penalty. I figure that was kind of direct and to the point and left enough space for you guys to argue your sides. So Connor is for, Michael Hatch is against. We'll start with the affirmative. Connor, are you ready to go?
Absolutely.
Right.
So my logic is as follows. It's that the people who criticize the death penalty criticize the way that we do the death penalty, meaning that there may be innocent people who end up getting killed, meaning that it's a very expensive process, meaning that there's a tons of appeals, meaning that it drags on for decades. And I think that the way we're doing it sucks, but that doesn't mean that I want to get rid of it entirely. If anything, I would want to massively improve upon the system. I think that we could eliminate the concerns about innocence by increasing the standard for capital punishment. So instead of having the standard criminal standard being redundant of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, I think that if you're going to be put down by the state, then it should be proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. Meaning that, like, we know you did it. We have video camera. We got DNA. We got multiple witnesses. We 100% know that you did this stuff, right? Then that would cut down on anybody innocent being killed by the state. Then when it comes to administrative costs, since we're reaching a threshold of beyond a shadow of a doubt, then I would say we can compress the appeals process effectively down to 2 or 3 appeals and then call it a day. You get 3 shots in order to prove that you were actually wrongfully convicted beyond a shadow of doubt. And if you can't, then you get put down. When it comes to, sometimes people object about the humane nature of capital punishment. I would say we could fix this problem real quick by just using opiates. Like we have a problem in this country where we have fentanyl running in the streets, knocking people out left, right, and center. Apparently dying from heroin is probably one of the most pleasant ways to die. So we don't have to punish or torture the people that we're euthanizing. We can just kill them with fentanyl or heroin. And the reason why I bring that up, and it's like, oh, well, you're giving them a positive death. Well, we're not trying to. There's a variety of reasons why you could kill somebody using capital punishment, using the state. But the way that I see it is identically to putting down a dog. So when a pit bull mauls a child, when a pit bull kills a human being, we don't euthanize the pit bull because we're trying to punish the pit bull. What we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate the threat that that dog poses to society. And then we're also trying to, we have limited resources within the world. We're trying to not send resources after an animal that has proven itself to be incapable of decent behavior. And so the same thing with, let's say, a serial killer or a serial murdering rapist or a serial pedophile rapist or a terrorist. For instance, Doshkar Zarnaev. Those are offenses that I think are so egregious that we can't let you back out. We can't allow you to pose a danger to other people. And your crime is so grievous that we should not be dedicating resources to your sustenance. I am a deist, meaning that I believe in God, but I don't believe in the firm dogma of religion as it presently exists. That effectively tells me, based off of analysis of reality, that we are living creatures, sentient and sapient beings. Humans are omnivores, meaning that the vast majority of us consume meat on a daily basis. I don't know why we should be killing perfectly good cows in order to feed perfectly fucking shitty human beings. Feels like an injustice for the cows and the chickens and the fish and the vegetables that we are setting aside in order to prolong the lives of people who, frankly, probably don't deserve to breathe anymore. So I think that addresses a substantial amount of the objections I often hear in reference to capital punishment. So I can leave it there for my opening statement.
Awesome. Thank you. All right.
Cool.
Here we go. All right. And Mr. Michael Hatch, are you ready for your 10-minute open?
Yeah. And I'm just to clarify, like, I'm not responding to Connor yet. I got my notes down for that, but I'm just going to give Kelly what I had prepackaged and then go from there.
Awesome.
So there's a monster inside of all of us, and human nature in the wrong contexts can get really dark. And I think when you see things like Rome descending from the Republic to the Empire to the Dominion, and that breaks up into the Middle Ages, you kind of see this multi-step process of things going from what was like kind of a little bit better, and then now we're like monsters killing each other over limited farm territory and rivers of blood, right? And religious banners to fight each other with, whatever, like medieval bad. And like literally it was medieval. And I think the world you're brought up in is going to inform your morals. And I think it's important to push towards a wimpier world that's less bloody. And a big part of that is what we cherish the most and what we're going to value as a society. And so I want to move the needle away from the medieval towards the unicorns and rainbows. And I think the death penalty allows a little bit of that medievalness to stick with us. It's not to say that we can never be perfected, or, we were talking about Carl Jung earlier off camera, but like, don't have our shadows. But if we can build better worlds that is nicer, then I think the vibes of a nicer world is better. So that's sort of at the core of the thing. And so Connor's, I think I'll leave it at that for now, but basically we built a better, kinder world, and we have slowly become wimpier and had nicer morals, right? A little more Disney, a little more inclusive, whatever, like all those things are. I generally think that's, the world of technology and hospitals and hugs, like, cool. That's the world I envision. If the cost of that is not killing some people that you could justify shouldn't be alive anymore, I'm okay with eating that cost. I also don't think they deserve to die, because killing's bad, and let's just feed them. Because as that guy in that weird hat said in Thor Ragnarok, we already got him. The end.
All right. So you both were pretty quick on those opens. That's Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys each 5 minutes for rebuttals, and then we'll go into a 1 hour open after that. As we did earlier, we'll start with Connor, and let me pull this up real quick. There we go. All right, when you're ready. Oh, you're muted. Connor,
Sorry.
yeah, there you go.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. You're right. There are monsters inside all of us, but monsters can be directed, and not all violence is unrighteous violence. So, for instance, when a law enforcement officer arrests somebody, if that somebody has committed a crime against society, we don't consider that violence bad. Same thing with the military. If we were to defend ourselves against an invading nation, we wouldn't consider that bad. Same thing with World War II, where we went after against, imperialist and fascist nations. We don't consider that bad, even though there was a lot of violence inside all of those things. So pushing towards a less bloody world, weirdly enough, I think some of the worst authoritarians on the planet have used this kind of thinking in order to justify Orwellian societies that are absolute fucking nightmares. Whenever the Chinese Communist Party justify what they're doing in reference to their surveillance state and their law enforcement state, they're always talking about greater social harmony. They're always talking about, the health of the greater good. They're always talking about how they're serving the common people whenever they're committing, cultural genocide against the Uyghur Muslims. Whenever they're talking about, oppressing the Falun Gong through organ harvesting. Whenever they're talking about, disappearing corrupt politicians without due process. They're always appealing to some harmonious good that must be served. And so this kind of language, I am always pretty hostile towards. Not only that, but the medievalness, you say that we carry the medievalness with us. Well, I have a feeling that there's a reason why brutality exists. We don't begrudge lions for eating antelope. We don't begrudge tigers for hunting whatever the fudge they hunt. Nor, and one of the things that you said was killing's bad, nor do we begrudge the human species what it does in order to survive as a species, which involves a healthy amount of killing. We kill all the time in order to serve our own species. So why would we draw some kind of arbitrary boundary around human beings? I don't understand. It does feel arbitrary to me. Then what I would say as well is, you have no idea what the next centuries or millennia are going to look like in reference to the human species. Yeah, sure, we might be bending towards a more just world. We also could devolve into absolute fucking barbarism and the collapse of civilization. Like the United States shares a lot of analogs with Rome. So what happens if the United States collapses? It's not going to be a friendly, happy, lucky, hand-holdy world. It's going to be a violent world, and we should know the difference between righteous and unrighteous violence. And then let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say that we explore the stars and we bump into a sapient species. Well, of course, we should work with diplomacy first. But what if we bump into a sapient species similar to us that actually has no problems with warfare, killing, or, hard power? Well, then at that point, we're going to need to remember some of our medieval habits. We're going to need to remember some of the violence and blood that has built us as a species. The one point that I also want to make before I kind of wrap here, though, wrap with my rebuttal, is that you said in general that killing is bad and you want to build a better world. Well, we sacrifice billions of agricultural animals every single year in order to sustain ourselves as a species. Why? And by the way, you're talking about extending, in this hypothetical, a proof beyond a shadow of a doubt serial killer's life for decades. And by proxy, you are condemning hundreds of sentient animals to death in order to serve food to that vile, irredeemable sack of shit. Why? Why is killing the 300 to 1,000 agricultural animals in service to feeding some fucking sociopath, serial killer, pedophile, murderer? Why should we kill the animals for this fucking degenerate piece of subhuman filth? I'll leave it there.
I like the use of subhuman there. As if there's an arbitrary line.
All right.
Well, I do tend to think of pedophiles and serial killers as, something other than fully human, but I'll leave it there.
All right.
So I'll concede that there could be times and contexts where the death penalty might be adaptive or appropriate. In a medieval world, in a hunter-gatherer society, the morals and systems that are being created that can function to support the stability of those societies, it might be necessary. I've never lived in a medieval village. Maybe if I was there for 10 minutes, I'd realize, oh, they need the death penalty. Like, this is bad, right? Like, I'll concede that there could be situations in the past that are that bad. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to put myself there fairly. But I got born into a world that was after that, and I really like it. And I really like its level of niceness. And so while I agree with Connor's points that there could be justified violence, and in war, there could be justified violence, right? Within peacetime, domestically, when you got someone and you already got them, does killing them make us any better? Or does it make any deterrent? And I think it kind of poisons us a little bit when we kill someone. It kind of tempts us back to the Warhammer of the old days, because there's something very interesting and like fantastic about that world, right? It's energizing and invigorating. Like, dang, if I could get that space armor on, right? But do we want a space armor future or a Star Trek future? You know, like, is it? The Star Trek thing, there's a problem there, right? You were talking about utopianism and like let 1,000 flowers bloom, right? All these Chinese revolution plans. I actually super agree with you on that. I think singular master schemes are dangerous. I think, you know, Polybius, Aristotle had this 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. You need ways to organize law and justice that create stability. Like, that was their great goal. And I don't think killing a dozen serial killer maniacs a year does anything to make us more stable, but I think it does poison us a little bit by doing it.
That it? That's the finish of your rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, gentlemen, at this point, we'll move into a back and forth for 1 hour. And good luck to you.
So what I was going to say is that you were born into a world that was nice. What year were you born?
1980.
Okay. You weren't born into a world that was nice. Our homicide rate was double what it is right now. You were at like arguably the peak of the drug war. The United States was at 5 per 100,000, or the United States at present is at 5 per 100,000 homicides. The United States during the 1960s was at 5 per 100,000. When you were born, the United States of America was at 10 per 100,000. It was literally a doubly more violent society. And then also, you're still not in, even nowadays, you're still not in this utopian, relatively safe, healthy society. You can go to areas of Baltimore, like West Baltimore, where the homicide rate is 60 per 100,000. In West Baltimore, the homicide rate is worse than in most war-torn countries because it is so violent. And these places are, during peacetime, during times of relative material tranquility, they are involving people that you consider your fellow citizens, and yet there are tons of fucking people being raped, murdered, stabbed, shot, brutalized all of the fucking time. So like when you say, oh, I was, born in a nicer world than that, not in America. You were actually born during a pretty violent time.
More violent than now, but far less violent than the past. Like, I think you go from when I was born to when I graduated high school in 99, it continued to improve and get better. Like, up until, the magical TED Talk times, where we had a lot of guys, the world's kind of working. Like, it's stable. We have 2 wars. We're after the Berlin Wall. We got like the Westphalian integrity has never been stronger. There's less, and domestically, our crime rates are lower than any other time in history and any other country in history. Like, yes, it was worse in 80 than now, but that's still way better than like medieval or even industrial era.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But the level of violence, you don't think that we're like, so for instance, like in West Baltimore with 60 homicides per 100,000 or whatever, like those people are pretty much living in a goddamn war zone. So, I mean, like, I don't know what specific region of the country that you live in, but effectively, like, all you're going to need to do is drive a few hours and you can find like some pretty medieval shit.
Certainly. I just think as a matter of public policy, you're going to have your hot spots in any like democracy like ours. I mean, America's a pretty messy democracy. We have our federalism, a lot of state control, a lot of city control, right? And you are going to get a lot of variety. But as a general policy across the board, if we were to take away the death penalty, let's say by a constitutional amendment, I just don't think that's going to make crime get worse. And I don't see how the incentives are going to change for the things that make people kill people. Because I find it hard to imagine that the circumstances where people kill people, the piece of information about the death penalty is going to get in there and stop them at the last second. Like maybe you have a different intuition on that, or some data, which I'd love to see. Like, do you think it deters them?
I don't know. It deters me. So hold on. Being real, because I don't think I have any data to support that the capital punishment specifically has any kind of deterrent effect. I will tell you that like grievous punishment absolutely deters my mindset. Now, there's some like sociological analyses that say that like predictors of getting caught are more likely to deter people from committing crime than the severity of the punishment. But at the same time, like, I don't think I have a high probability of getting caught, but I have a, decent life. I got kids, I got bills to pay, I got people that I love, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I do a cost benefit analysis of this person's pissed me off, I wish I could strangle them to death. Number one, I would say I'm answerable to God in my own mind. Number two, I think I'm answerable to society. So those two things, when I have those like violent, homicidal, medieval impulses, I typically check those with some level of religious belief and some level of belief in social justice.
Would you say
that I shouldn't feed that monster because I know I could be punished?
Interesting. Yeah. I guess we've all had moments where we're angry or something, or think a thought you shouldn't have, right? But like that's a passing moment. Your car breaks in front of you, you're angry, right? Like, but I'm not imagining, Connor, that you're sitting there like cleaning your gun and like, no, I probably shouldn't. Like, I feel like the flicker of that moment for you is not going to be more like a second, right? Like,
sure.
Like,
I'm mostly joking with this, but at the same time, like, just as an example, there is a list in my mind of people who deserve to be killed. I think that who is it? Casey Anthony, 100% should be executed by the state. Like her investigation should be reopened. Every single one of her data devices should be investigated thoroughly. Any like post communications that she's had, like after the trial, that might have revealed some kind of confession of her killing her child. That woman committed infanticide. She took a small child, wrapped her up in duct tape, threw her in a fucking suitcase, threw that suitcase, I think, in the woods, maybe even in the trunk of like an abandoned car, and let her own child suffocate to death and dehydrate to death inside a suitcase. That woman should be euthanized by the state. But because of this like happy-go-lucky unicorn fucking horseshit, in my opinion, not only is she not looking at a capital sentence, she's free. She's dating the private investigator that helped her defend her fucking case. Same thing with O.J. Simpson. There's no doubt in my fucking mind that O.J. Simpson committed homicide. That's another person that should have fucking been killed by the state. Doshkar Sarnaev still hasn't been put down by the state. He left pipe bombs in the middle of in the middle of the Boston Marathon, and he killed like an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. He knew what he was doing. So why the fuck would we, and I'll ask you this thing again about like agricultural animals. Why should cows and chickens and fish be slaughtered in order to feed Doshkar Sarnaev when he showed no care for the people of Boston?
If you and I were on the committee to write the law about this, right? I would happily stipulate that we're going to have an addendum that says they eat vegetarian. But I don't think
I guess that technically solves the problem, but do you think you're actually going to get that passed as a part of your bill to add to like seriously, like capital you're going to have an 8th Amendment lawsuit faster than anything else. So they're going to say that you forcing them to be vegetarian is cruel and unusual punishment.
Sorry, that's just quotable.
No, I'm kind of kidding, but you get this weird scenario where, like Anders Breivik, for instance, Anders Breivik, I want to say he killed around either 100 or 200 people in Norway. He like shot them, pipe bombed them, killed them. He basically slaughtered like I think it was like 93 people or something like that. I'd have to take a look at the exact stats. He petitioned the Norwegian government to say that his video game console is cruel and inhumane treatment because he had an outdated video game console with no internet and old video games. Why the fuck should we be tolerating that? Why should Anders Breivik be like, why should he have gotten the ability to kill 100 people and then bitch that he has too old of a fucking video game system? You want to go fucking barbaric? I don't even think that guy should be euthanized with fucking fentanyl. I think that guy should be like fucking flayed alive and fucking crucified in the streets. So weirdly enough, you feel like capital punishment with heroin is barbaric. No, that's like the centrist position, in my opinion.
You know, there was a debate, I think it was Reagan-Mondale, the 84 debate, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong. But sorry for the noise. It's very hot here and I had to leave the door open. So someone asked, I think it was Mondale, like, what would you do if your daughter got kidnapped and killed? Would you want that person to have the death penalty? And he gave this very like monotone, measured anti-death penalty response. And there was no passion in him at all. And a lot of people saw that as a debate lose moment because like, you're not going to be mad if this guy killed your daughter. Of course you want to kill him, right? But I feel like there's a great sort of callback to that in the West Wing where they're debating how to debate in a later episode. There's a small West Wing spoiler for dialogue, but they're talking about how the president should respond in a thing. And I think Toby Ziegler gives a great answer. He's like, the answer you should give is, of course I'd be mad. Of course I'd want them dead. That's why we have courts and justice systems and we don't let dads take revenge. And I know you're appealing to our like sense of morality when you're saying why these people should be dead and they don't deserve to be alive. But like whether or not he's complaining about his video game system, to me, I don't think should weigh on our public policy choices. Does that make sense? Like there's going to be a
where's the justice in that? And then here's another thing too. Like, where is it written that retribution isn't like a cause for justice? I understand that we've all been raised on, you know, Batman cartoons and Superman and all that kind of stuff. But like, there are multiple motivation, like justice. I'm pretty sure if we look at it, you know, there's gonna be some like ascription to fairness. So we have moral systems throughout like our species. We have what I like to call barbarian retributive violence. You kill a member of my tribe, I kill your entire tribe. We have eye for an eye, which basically means you poke out my eye, I'm entitled to either your eye or I'm entitled to compensation for my eye. That's equivalent to my eye. We have tit for tat with some level of turning the other cheek, which basically means that when you fuck me over, I reciprocate with you fucking you over, but I don't necessarily have to fuck you over the exact same way. I can fuck you over in a way that's more creative and maybe even legal. And then there's turn the other cheek, which is like basically like you can strike me and I'll give you my other cheek. Now, of course, like when we're talking about like being reciprocal in good faith, then we would want to turn the other cheek as maximally as possible. But if there's somebody who like when you turn your cheek, they slit your throat and rape your daughter, like turning the other cheek doesn't really work. At least not on this plane of existence, unless you're appealing to God.
I agree with that last point that if we're in a outside the law situation, like state of nature, yeah, different rules are going to apply. Within the rule of law bubble though, right? When we're talking about justice, like what's a prison for, right? You have like getting better, recovery is one reason, like removal from society, just separating, right? Another one's punishment, right? And one is retribution, right? So retribution is kind of like a personalized punishment. You could just have like breaking rocks because you stole, I don't know, something very expensive from a city or something, right? Like So there's these 4 kind of categories. And I feel like over the history of our country, we have sort of moved and changed what quadrant of that we want to be in as a country. And I think it would be, as much as legal scholars might be like pretty clean and clinical about like, no, it shouldn't be retributive, it shouldn't be revenge, right? Something of that spirit is in our voting, and that voting does affect the death penalty, right? So I guess I would say I would want us together to be like, yeah, let's just make jail not about revenge, not about vengeance, and not about punishment. But we can make it about separation and for the right people doing something to improve themselves, right? And I would challenge you to argue maybe why a legal system, its bubble, should include the spirit of retribution or revenge in it. I would think that maybe that should stay in the older world, just in terms of how you're setting.
You're asking me like why it should, but my question is like, why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't you like, let's hypothetical you. Why, if you cause harm in the world, if you hurt other people, should you be treated neutrally? Like, why should you not be punished? Why should you not receive retribution? Because the whole thing about it is like, we're a reciprocal species. So what you do to me, you can kind of expect to be done to you. We understand that instinctively. So if you kill a member of my tribe, then chances are that you yourself or somebody you love could be killed. We understand this like on a fundamental bare bones level. So why would we stop that? Why would we say, oh no, actually you can do a bunch of fucked up shit, but if we catch you, we're going to treat you neutrally? Why is that the default?
I think that's modern justice. I think we deliberately created buffers to try and separate ourselves from that as much as we can.
Why?
Well, if the court is entangled in the mud of the emotions around what the killing of someone may or may not mean, right? Like if one particular person gets killed and it's like a huge media story, and another particular person gets killed and it's not really big news, like all that could sway how much justice is happening. Like, but by making the court more independent and sort of clinically removed as much as we practically can for humans from the vengeance spirit, I feel like that is closer to the ideal of what I would hope justice would be, right? And
why? So the reason why I'm asking why is because, so for instance, we reviewed the Carmelo Anthony case today and like a reaction to it, which was the young 19-year-old gentleman who showed up with a knife to school, basically got into a fight over whether or not he was allowed into the other school's sports players' tent. It became a verbal altercation. He stabbed the 17-year-old. The 17-year-old died.
Yeah.
So this should be, relatively speaking, outrageous to most people, because absent race, we don't have to eliminate the racial component, but I think we should probably, for the sake of this conversation, is that there's not really a reason to move into somebody else's space, even if it's a public space, be told to leave, tell people to fuck off, then be pushed and then stab someone to death. Like there isn't like a sound justification for that, because if Carmelo Anthony, the person who actually committed the murder, if he had called law enforcement and said, hey, this guy's putting his hands on me, then the most the other guy would have been guilty of is like simple battery, which is like a Class C misdemeanor in the state of Texas. It would have been a $500 fine. And let's be real, he probably wouldn't have gotten arrested. As a matter of fact, Carmelo probably would have been told, hey, this isn't your fucking, your school's tent. You need to fuck off. And if you don't leave, it's going to be trespass after warning. So why shouldn't we be outraged by that? Because one of the things that actually is bugging me here is that I'm pretty sure there is a quote about like, one of the things that should, it's like one of the moral failures of the human species is not getting angry when you should be angry. So like, why is the instinct like we have to be unflappable, asexual, neutral stoics in reference to shit? Why is that the ideal?
I think it's more like not shopping when you're hungry. When you're designing the laws, you want to do it at a time that you're not angry about a particular killing. So that
but at the same time, like should you not be pissed off about like chattel slavery, or should you not be pissed off about the Holocaust, or should you not be pissed off about all that kind of stuff. Because like the sense of neutrality that you're approaching from, it's like at some point it does feel like an excuse for injustice.
I mean, correct me if I'm
Oh,
wrong.
well, we need to see it from like Germany's side that, you know, the Jews are, you know, they're communist parasites who are infiltrating the Western world and are subverting, you know, Europe. And, you know, they're just, you know, they believe that they're the Übermenschen and that they need Lebensraum in order to spread their people. You know, we need to see it from their side. And it's like, no, we fucking don't. We don't need to see it from their side. They're doing something morally outrageous. They're stealing property. They're killing people. They're liquidating people. They're executing men, women, and children. It is time to get pissed off.
I am angry every day about the hundreds of thousands of people in Africa that are dying that we just let hang on the hook with the AIDS stuff.
Sure.
I'm angry every day about January 6th. Like, I am furious about Trump's response to COVID and the total mind wiping that happened after January 6th within the Republican Party. My old party, John McCain's party, right? Like, I'm pissed about some stuff. Like, so I hope you don't think I'm trying to tell people to be robots. What I'm saying is, and I think it was Madison.
It's coming off a little bit like that.
Okay, well, if that's coming across, I want to be clear. I'm pissed off about some stuff. But when you're designing institutions, like Federalist Papers speak to this a lot. I can't remember the numbers, but you want to design it with the flaws of human nature built in so that our passions don't get the best of the system.
Sure.
And that's why you need separated powers. That you need the wheels of justice roll slowly for good reason. Like I'm talking about designing institutions. I agree with you on the anger level of every one of the cases you're describing. That shit's monstrous, right? It's just like, okay, my anger shouldn't be like on the quill though, you know?
Sure, but that's where maybe I feel like because I have like a centrist, compromising nature, I hear what I don't think I've heard it tonight, by the way, but I hear what most death penalty critics say. What most death penalty critics say is there have been innocent people, provably innocent, who have been I forget what you call it.
Expunged or
I really wish I had the exact word. Exonerated. Exonerated.
Yeah, there it is.
They've been exonerated by DNA evidence, so we knew that this person didn't commit the rape and the murder. You know, like we knew 100%, and yet they were put down. They were killed anyways, right? So I hear them that there have been innocent people who have actually been killed, particularly like prior to the 1990s, prior to DNA evidence and all that kind of stuff. Like that, it was definitely way more common. So I hear you. I hear them on that. I hear them on the long processing time. I hear them on the expense. I hear them on all that kind of shit. What I don't hear them on, though, is like justice. And maybe it's just because we just have a different conception of justice, where they will almost appeal to me after I say, okay, let's go to beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt standard. Okay, let's reduce down to 3 appeals and this should already cut, you know, capital punishment by like 70%. And then also, let's not make the actual killing process inhumane through drugs. I feel like I've addressed their substantive shit. And then they try to appeal to me out of some kind of like, some like sick, perverse desire to torture these people. Like, oh, isn't it worse if they sit in prison perpetually stewing on their crimes for the next like 5 decades?
I don't like that argument. Yeah.
No, well, yeah. They're basically arguing to me to like spiritually violate the 8th Amendment of the United States. And then not only that, some of these people are fucking remorseless. They probably don't give a shit that they killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, I've never understood that argument, so it's not one I'm making.
Sure.
Because it kind of goes counter to the whole spirit of like my reason for not liking the death penalty, because it's not nice. That argument they're making, like, he'll suffer more if he lives his whole life there. Like, that just makes it worse to me. I don't, right? Yeah.
But you know you should. So you kind of you said this thing though, where it's like, well, it's not nice or whatever, and it poisons our souls or whatever. But I feel maybe this is me compensating. I feel like being nice is not always correct. Right? It's just not always correct. Like being tactful, sure. Being diplomatic, sure. Being patient, sure. But being nice, no. Absolutely the fuck not. And there are times where you should be mean.
Can I choose a different word than nice?
Sure.
Something like neutral or moderated, like temperate maybe, but like not being mean, I'd say. Something like if you're giving someone's thumbprints and they're coming to prison, right? You shouldn't be like shouting at them while they're picking up the new orange like PJs. Like, just do the procedure. Don't need to be mean to them, right? Like, it's in that spirit that I'm speaking to, not like obsequiousness. You know, like it should be neutrally, just like the prison shouldn't be picking on people or yelling at people if you're a guard or something. Like, the energy that's behind the death penalty, I feel like even if I knew that it would be cheaper to put them to death, like I wouldn't care. Like the utility there is.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're worried about staining either your soul through participation or the soul of America by tolerating this institution for centuries to come. That's what it sounds like. It's like a spiritual argument that we are tainting ourselves by participating in this archaic punishment.
Yeah, like when we have the Elon Musk statue of him doing a Nazi salute on Mars, right? Like that's the future I don't want. Right?
Sure.
Like
I guess my thing though is like
topic example, but you know what I mean.
If you would actually solve just to maybe kind of move towards the argumentation that actually works. Weirdly enough, if you compelled every fucking person who was worthy of capital punishment in order to avoid capital punishment to become vegetarian, that's like weirdly enough quite funny to me, to the point that I would like almost tolerate it. It's like, guess what, bitch? You get to fucking live for like another 5 decades, but you can only eat soy patties for the next 5 decades. That's actually like weirdly. Yeah, that's like weirdly funny to me. And funnily enough, I think it deals with my strongest argument, which is that you have to sacrifice dozens or hundreds or thousands of sentient animals. Now, pointing that out from a procedural matter, though, just to kind of ram this home, like, I think that because we accept that the human species is omnivorous, your capacity to like put it into law that anybody who was eligible for capital punishment under prior legislation must be vegetarian, I don't see that making it into the law. And weirdly enough, I see organizations like the ACLU fighting against that because they would say, oh, well, this is cruel and inhumane because you're compelling carnivores and omnivores to eat a diet that's against their like personal dietary preference, and also maybe it even violates their like religion or something. If there's some kind of carnist argumentation for religion. Yeah, and I think it would be distracting from like constitutional amendments should be short, right? Like I think that would be a distraction if this were that kind of thing. It would be distracting to throw in the vegetarian thing, right? It's off topic. It's a sort of disconnected dot from the core of what's important for the topic. Sure. Like, and that's where I think that you would, if everybody agreed with you, all that we would get past is, you know, we have determined that capital punishment is cruel and unusual. Therefore, based on the 8th Amendment, we're passing the 33rd Amendment or something that says capital punishment is banned in the United States. Right. Like I think that's how the amendment would actually read. But then with execution, we are dealt with holding on to dozens, if not hundreds, of horrid people and then keeping them alive for decades for a purpose I can't even articulate, besides you don't like us being spiritually archaic. Yes. But I want to... Do you hunt? I don't hunt, but there's a great quote. I think it was from, it's either Young or Joseph Campbell, but they were saying how to exist in the universe is to kill. We eat plants, we eat animals, every living being. Like they might have been even citing like the Buddha or something, or like the cycle of life. No, it's in the opening of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, it was one of them citing that. Thank you. And so there's a truth to that. There's a primal reality that we're a part of, and I do draw a bit of an arbitrary line around humans versus other species with some gradations. You know, you get your monkeys and elephants and dolphins and stuff, but like, why though? The food system thing is a separate topic, you know, like. Sure. Like, but can I ask what? So for instance, like, are you? Like I said, I consider myself a deist. Are you religious at all? No. I grew up Catholic though, and I still maintain a lot of the culture of life attitudes around death penalty and stuff like that. Like, so why have you segregated? Because for instance, like, I think cows are stupid. I think chickens are stupid. I don't think a chicken is ever going to like do calculus or like cure cancer or whatever. but I can still recognize that there is like a sentient experience happening within a cow or a chicken or a dog or a pig, and that consciousness, similar to me in reference to evolutionary pressure, has a desire to survive. And you can see that whenever an animal goes to slaughter, you can see that during hunting, they always have a desire to push on and to survive. So the reason why we violate that desire to survival is because we say, we, the human species, are at the top. Your meat, your poultry, your whatever, your eggs, whatever, they are ours. And therefore, even though it's violating your sentient experience and causing you pain, we don't give a shit. And we're going to violate your sentient experience in order to make sure that our species is doing well. So why? Because I still value sentient experience in general. Why the fuck should like I know it's a weird term, but like an innocent cow, a cow that's just cowing, you know, it's just eating grass, it's just hanging out, it's chilling. Why should we shoot it in the head with a fucking bolt gun, violating its sentient experience, effectively sentencing it to a capital punishment death in order to harvest meat for someone who is like a rawly violative piece of shit?
Have you ever read Peter Singer's The Expanding Circle?
I haven't.
Okay, it's a pretty influential book in some political theory and political science. It was in my reading in my last master's program. And basically Singer has become, over time, he's like 90 now, I think, one of the more influential people. But one of his ideas is that over time, as we've moved into industrial and modern eras, and we see in newspapers other people, first in blurry images or etchings, and now in live stream. Vietnam War was in color. And like people seeing that in color made them less likely to want to fight the war, which leading to more protests. And that it's harder and harder to be cruel to other peoples around the world because we're starting to be more like it's a small world after all, right? Like slowly, the circle of who's our in-group went from family to tribe. Well, let's say it started tribe, right? And then like
to nation, and then,
right? So we're welcoming more and more, and we haven't like. I'm making the human line because we're not to the animal line yet, right?
But here's what's funny to me, though. I think there's humans who are outside of my line, and I think there's animals who are inside my line. Maybe I say that because I'm like a dog owner, and also I have like friends who have cats or whatever. You know, there are pets, and this is something that's like a weird modern phenomena as well. But like, there are pets who show like more moral consideration and kindness and like good temperament than some humans do. And so weirdly enough, in my opinion, if we're talking about like the ever expanding nature of, the tribe, then humanity should have some exclusions to who's a part of the tribe of humanity. And then weirdly enough, we should probably expand our circle of moral consideration to all sentient beings, grading them on a curve, of course. I don't think that the sentient experience of a mollusk is identical to the sentient experience of a dolphin. But at the same time, I'm just saying, like, why should I kill? Once again, I'll try to make it direct. Why should I kill a cow in order to harvest it for meat? A cow that's just cowing and being a cow in order to serve his meat to a fucking pedophile. You know, it's a supply-demand curve. Why am I satisfying the demand of a pedophile, rapist, serial killer with the supply of the death of a sentient creature?
I would say it's because budgets are big, messy, fungible objects, and money go in, money go out. But when we tie the happy cow to the evil serial killer, those dots aren't like one, like the money that could have gone to the serial killer or the cow, right? Like it's all the big squishy political budget thing. But if we could draw a line from any one thing in the budget that's least deserving to one other thing that's the most deserving that didn't get it. And like, yeah, there's all those kinds of things around the world. But when we're setting policy, we've got to have a category we're talking about, right? Like, and so,
well, right, but I'm actually, weirdly enough, I'm with your fungible thing. Maybe it's because I took like 2 economics classes in college or whatever. But for me, supply and demand seem relatively straightforward, which is effectively the more demand you have, then there's going to be a pressure to supply. So every serial killer that we keep, even if it's just a few hundred omnivorous serial killers, we're still going to need to, what is this? Like probably 2 protein meals a day, each one's going to be like a chicken breast. There's 2 chicken breasts per chicken. I mean, just do the fucking math. You're talking about hundreds or thousands of creatures sacrificed for these fucking pedophile, murdering, serial killing pieces of shit. And I don't see the benefit, when realistically we could just euthanize them, which is not really like, it's no skin off of anybody's ass except for theirs. And they kind of forfeited their right to care when they did the seriously violative shit that they did.
We are opening a door there a little bit to like moral tests for diets. Like what about bank robbers? What about like all the different gradations of evil in prison, right? Like are life in prison people, did they get the cows?
Well, funnily enough, we did used to feed people lobster because it was considered the cheap meat back in the day. So lobster in the Northeast was it wasn't viewed as a delicacy that you got to put in butter. It was viewed as like the trash meat that you serve prisoners. So no, I think I would draw a line here where it's like, if we're keeping you alive for 20 years, 35 years, 40 years, like Carmelo Anthony got sentenced to 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a man that comes out of the other side. Maybe he finds Christ. Maybe he leads Bible study. Maybe he gets an associate's degree. Maybe he just decides that he's going to atone for his sins to the family. There's still possibly a human being that's worthy of, like, I don't know, some level of salvation and redemption there. Whereas once again, I feel like with certain crimes, there's just hard lines that I have to draw. And by the way, one of them is, like knowingly pipe bombing a fucking 8-year-old to death. That is one of the lines where I say, Doshkar Sarnaev dropped off a backpack in the middle of a crowd that included children that had pipe bombs in it. He knew it was going to maim and kill dozens of people, and it maimed and killed dozens of people. So at that point, fuck him. He doesn't even get lobster. He gets heroin, and he gets a fucking forever nap.
Yeah. So I agree with you. That is a feeling I share with you. I just don't think those feelings are valid. I mean, for policy making. Because
sorry, I mean, we might be looping a little bit, but the reason why I'm saying why is because it's like there seems to just be this like not trying to accuse you of any kind of political bias or whatever, but there seems to be this like liberal and progressive like instinct for like we have to completely separate our passions from our perceptions of the world, and I just don't agree with that at all. Like, if I feel disgusted at something, there's probably a reason why. Maybe it's evolutionary, maybe it's not fully rational, all that kind of stuff. But when I'm instinctively repulsed by something, there's normally a reason why.
Real quick, I'm just going to close this door for the sound. Sure. Sorry about that. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
Interesting.
Hi, Abe. How you doing?
I'm good. This is meandering, but it's kind of awesome because you're kind of fleshing out some, I think, pertinent ideas, actually.
Yeah, well, so just between us girls while Michael's gone or whatever, like, well, I guess he's back. So there is this appeal in the internet debate space where you have to like articulate a specific measurable harm before like any instinct can be considered valid whatsoever. And yet I feel like our instincts to some degree have been honed over like centuries or millennia of experience. And just letting you guys know about like a bigotry or a bias that I'm perfectly fine living and dying with. It's like, when it comes to any kind of like sexual proclivity towards children, right? Like, if you're talking about adolescent or pre-adolescent children, it's like, fuck you, like no moral consideration whatsoever. And then when it comes to like teenagers or whatever, obviously I'm going to have less of a judgment for somebody who's like dating somebody who's 17 years old, 364 days and fucking, 59 seconds old versus somebody who's trying to like have a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old. Obviously I'm going to grade that on a scale, but I'm still going to view that as like predatory if you're substantially older, and I'm going to view you as fucked up. And yet what I find consistently with some people is that if you can't articulate, if they come up with like all these variables for how there's not harm in this scenario, they just want you to sign off on the fact that it's okay to engage in these what I think is like rawly antisocial behavior. And I find that the instinct to tolerate, the instinct to accept, it goes too far, in my opinion. There are some things you should be pissed off at. There are some things that you should draw lines on, or hard lines on. And there are times where violence is justified.
I don't think I disagree with any of that.
I know, but I the reason why I'm getting frustrated or whatever, and it's not anything personal, it's just that I think that your instinct to try to push society towards like a quote unquote better or nicer place is like a parallel instinct to what I hear from progressives and from liberals, where they're like, well, if you can't articulate a specific harm, then who gives a shit? And it's like, no, I'm still pissed off and fuck you.
Yeah, I find that a lot of the anti-capital punishment arguments are not that great. So I probably can agree with you on a lot of how they build the structures of those. Like, can I tell you a park ranger story real quick? Please. So I only was a park ranger for like one season, seven years. I was out in the Grand Tetons, but we had bears, like a lot of bears. Like I was hanging out with some bears a lot, like at least once a week. I'm following one with the walkie-talkie as we get them away from where the people are, right? And like one of the older rangers just had a really funny thing, and we were asking about how they designed the trash cans, and they said it's actually really hard to design. And for those listening, there are these complicated trash cans that different parks do different ways to make it so that humans can throw their trash away and close it, but bears cannot get in. And they had a bear expert there, like the regional expert on bears. We were at a campfire one time. He was sharing his whiskey with us. It was like a great night. And he had forearms like you wouldn't believe. But like he builds bear traps. Like he does this whole, he's a PhD in bear, whatever, however that goes. But he said the problem with designing bear traps is that sometimes there's an overlap, right? Where the smartest bear can get into trash cans that some humans can't figure out how to operate. Right?
Yeah. That sounds like the most human shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Absolutely. So you're actually preventing humans from getting into the trash cans instead of the bears. Yeah.
And like at some point you have to design a bear trash can, and it's not going to perfectly keep bears out or humans in, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say my point of view is that having a clear line there is a sort of imperfect bear trap. Or not bear trap, bear trash can.
What about like the sanctity of life of the human species or something?
Something in that ballpark that would be a good and healthy heuristic to pass to the future as a moral standard. Yeah. That most modern countries do, except us, Japan, and South Korea, I think. But that doesn't even matter. Whatever countries do or don't is not my argument. My argument is that, like, yes, you're right. There will be some beautiful best friend dogs out there that are more value to the universe than some horrible dude, right? But as a rule, we got to set for everyone. We got to not eat while we're hungry, and then plan that rule. And that's where I would put that line as a useful, because it has to be legible to the average person.
Well, I accept that, and actually, from a utilitarian standpoint, oftentimes what I've heard argued in the past, poorly by the way, but still argued, is that societies that still have capital punishment compared to a lot of societies that don't have capital punishment actually tend to be less violent. I think that stands with like there's other correlative factors like education, access to firearms, levels of development, all that kind of shit. Yeah. But they'll point out that correlate. So my thing though is, especially you just said like, oh, well, it's us and like 2 developed Asian countries that still have the death penalty compared to the rest of the civilized world. My frustration with that mentality is for me, I know that for the next generation, 9/11 is ancient history. And I know that for the next generation, Vietnam is fucking the Mesozoic era. And I know that fucking World War II was, might as well have been like the age of the dinosaurs or whatever. But my grandparents were World War II veterans. Like I lived and talked and hung out with them and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, the Europeans being like, oh, we're so civilized. And it's like only recently, like only very recently, like in my grandparents' lifetime, when I was 20, we had the War on Terror, which was a conflict that cost 10,000 American lives and 200,000 Iraqi lives. When my grandpa was my same age, he was flying bombers in a world conflict that I think cost like 20 million lives, 30 million lives.
I think it's like 70.
Well, right. So I mean, that's just like, I might have only been thinking about like combatants or like Russian combatants only or something.
Dude,
you know?
The Russian front by itself, just Germany versus, that was like its own biggest war ever. And then you have other stuff on top of it.
Right. So that's where for me, it's like the Europeans being like, oh, well, we got rid of capital punishment in the past 50 years. And it's like, yeah, but you guys fought the most existential conflict in human history, killed tens of millions of people, and now you don't have a taste for blood at all anymore. And frankly, I think you're a little bit of fucking pussies, which is why, like, when Russia is invading Ukraine, the Europeans do all these beautiful speeches about the sanctity of freedom and sovereignty and self-determination and all that kind of shit. But it's taking them 5 fucking years in order to turn on the lights at their local factories in order to provide weapons for Ukraine to defend its own fucking sovereignty. So like, I don't trust these motherfuckers. And then also not only do I not trust them, I think that they are like abstaining from their moral duty as like the inheritors of World War II to maintain the level of violence necessary to prevent Russia from fucking over Ukraine. And they haven't. They fucking haven't. They've basically sat back and watched it happen. And the only reason why, sorry that I'm yapping so much, but the only reason why Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, and Western Europe feel so goddamn secure is because they know that if an actual hot war kicks off, then our dumbass fucking violent redneck kids will come over there and fucking kill people. That they're not morally superior because they've eliminated their instinct for violence. They've abstained from their moral duty, and then they've offshored the responsibilities of their violence to Americans.
Yeah. Yeah, and since the post-World War II kind of compromises, like that has been sort of a somewhat lazy status quo. And I do think it's a good thing that the Europeans have become more serious about their national security. I think that's great. Like, I'm with you there on that. I don't think the lesson from World War II is to be more violent, though. But you can be
it's not to be more violent, but it is to be more prepared.
Yeah, and that's where deterrence is important. I think it is good to prepare and good to like show, to be bristling, right? And to,
well, yeah, and then sorry if I'm going geopolitical instead of the specifics of capital punishment, but once again, like this appetite for like a kinder, nicer, less violent world or whatever, I think that's another reason why Europe hesitated during the collapse of Yugoslavia. They saw ethnocides in Yugoslavia, and they waited for the Americans to do something about it because they didn't have the moral instinct to say, no, this violence is fucked up. You are massacring men, women, and children. And not only am I pissed off about it, I'm going to do something about it. And so that's where, for me, like, sorry if I'm appealing to like national level military conflicts versus capital punishment, but I see it as tied to this conversation because you say we need to push towards like a more kind might have been the wrong word, but like a more just, more evolved society. But I don't see a more kind, just, and evolved society. I see people who don't want to get their hands dirty outsourcing the blood to other people. That's what I see.
Okay. On that big picture spirit, right? Like, let's say 40 years from now, there's no more West Side Chicago or Baltimore or like wherever, pick your place that might have a lot of crime, right? Like Baghdad or whatever. Like, if all we've done our nice boring globalization growth, right? Like everyone's sort of chilling, trading, right? Steven Pinker's dream, right? Like, do you think it would be good at some point once we're ready to like leave the death penalty behind us?
Not as long as human evil is as bad as it can be. So for instance, like let's say that we had one serial killing child rapist in the United States of America. I would still want to have one capital punishment for that guy, you know? Yeah. So yeah, we've reduced violence across the entire and by the way, that's the way that I think we should be approaching it. We shouldn't be eliminating the tools of punishment that are available to us. We should be approaching it systemically. So the kind of things like I told you that Baltimore had like 60 homicides per 100,000. That should be looked at systemically so we can try to get that subset of our society under control. But that has nothing to do with whether or not the state is capable of punishing. You would just reduce the amount of people who the state can punish because you've actually reduced the crime.
So you want to reduce the abortions with contraception?
Sorry, say that again.
By analogy, you want to reduce the abortions by contraception.
Please God. And Michael, I'll say this is like this is the best faith conversation I've had in months. Yes. I would like to reduce, literally metaphorically, abortions, in my opinion, vile, kind of tool of last resort, maybe necessary some of the time, blah, 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 blah. But if you start with contraception, then obviously you substantially reduce your need for abortion, and therefore, it's like a chicken and egg thing, basically.
Yeah. I want to check I had a notes for something. I want to go back to the types of justice, right? Because it sounds like fundamentally you're okay with some of the primal emotions, which you think are a useful guide to our moral barometer, right? And I think I would agree that emotions are important information for how we do these things, right? Like how we feel is a part of human nature. That's how we understand each other. So when I'd be angry about that, so would you, right? Like, do you think that lex talionis or eye for an eye, right, should kind of be in the ingredients of the cake of the judicial system?
Yes. So sorry for being so enthusiastic with that. Yes. But weirdly enough, I think eye for an eye is like a really good system for reciprocity, right? So you slap me in the face, I ignore your slap, and then as a result, we have a clean slate with which to interact. However, if you keep slapping me in the face, I actually think it's a really bad system. And then I think tit for tat with they call it like tit for tat with 10% turn the other cheek or whatever. That's like one of the best systems for reciprocity. Yeah. But weirdly enough, I think when it comes to the justice system, if you poke out my eye, then yeah, I should either be entitled to your eye or a metaphorical equivalent. And a metaphorical equivalent, of course, being like the civil punitive system, where you might have to pay, $250,000 for my pain and suffering because I lost my eye. So yeah, I still think eye for an eye has its place. Outside
of the civil, though, because I think on the civil, like, yeah, you sue, you do jury, like that's how you get made whole, whatever, right?
Right.
Whole as you can be. But when it comes to criminal felony convictions, right? That's what Locke's talking about, right? I still think that Locke should be a little more sanitized.
No, that's a great point, because eye for an eye in reference to rape would mean that you get to get raped. Like, yeah. Okay, sorry. That was a vulgar place to go, but that's exactly where my mind went. So,
we're all human.
No, I think it should be tit for tat, because tit for tat, actually specifically within that system, it says that your punishment is proportional to what you did, but it doesn't have to be the same. So for instance, like, let's say you sexually assault somebody or rape somebody, you can serve a prison sentence for 10 or 20 years, which is viewed in light of the seriousness of your crime. But you yourself, at least from the criminal justice standpoint, you're not going to be sexually assaulted as a result of your crime. So I think that's tit for tat.
Gotcha. And so I would agree that the magnitude of the badness of the crime reflected in more years in prison to me seems appropriate, right?
Yeah. And sorry if I'm interrupting your train of thought, but something just popped into my head.
Go for it.
I think the reason why I insist, and proponents of capital punishment insist on capital punishment being a tool, is because there are some crimes where there is not a proportional response.
That's what I was
right.
Ask about, yeah.
Serial killing and murdering a dozen children. There is nothing that we can do to you on this plane of existence that is proportional to the crime that you have committed.
If you're Enron and thousands of people lose their retirement savings because you did white collar crimes, like, damn, like what's proportionate,
Well, didn't I don't know if it was the Enron head, but I think Madoff. I think
that was the guy. Yeah, decades. He had the Ponzi schemes. Those are the two big ones from the 90s, or the thousands, whatever.
Yeah. No, but those people should obviously spend decades. But to your point, if somebody from Enron gets tens of thousands of people unemployed and bankrupts tens of thousands of people, weirdly enough, incarceration is not going to make those people whole or be proportional to the amount of damage that they did. So I agree, but I also don't know if we should be executing white collar criminals. You know, you could talk me into it, but I don't know if that's appropriate.
I'm tempted to try as an exercise, but it might go off the course. But like, if I've got an intuition that a bigger crime should have more time, right?
Yes.
Now I might be like, okay, we need to separate them from society for longer, right? That would be one of my like wimpy versions. Just separation. It's just separation, guys. We're just keeping it right. It's not hurting them. But like, what if in 10 years they're kind of like ready to go back, but like they did a real bad crime, right? Like they should do the whole sentence, right? Like part of me still feels like you got to get the whole sentence though. Like when they serve those sentences concurrently and you're like, yeah, wait, you killed 5 people and they're doing it side by side on the, like, what does that even mean?
Well, that was actually exactly... Argumentatively, that's exactly where I was going to go. So, for instance, like, let's say that there's a serial killer who specifically targets children or something like that. What he's taken from those children is, 74 years, of life expectancy minus their age at the time they were killed. What he's taken from the parents is, 50 years with their child, right? Or 60 years with their child. And so when you add up the amount of like, grandparents, friends, family, immediate family, extended family, all that kind of stuff, you're talking about like centuries of time that have been robbed off of a single homicide because you killed an innocent child. And so for me, that's where it's like, well, a life sentence isn't enough. So maybe that's actually literally, I think you kicked something loose in my brain. I think it's because I genuinely believe in tit for tat. And when it comes to some crimes, there is no way to make up for what you have taken from other people. And terrorism, mass murder, serial killing, all that kind of stuff, those would be examples of the things where there is just no way for society to extricate back what you have taken from others.
Be rough to get whole on that, how we assign meaning to crime. It's almost like our justice system in some ways on a non-practical level helps us bake the knife into a cake, give a meaningful story to close our hearts about whatever this thing is. Like, what do you think of the virtue for the family of the closure for them? Do you think that's a part of your argument, or is that kind of not relevant?
Well, it is. It 100% is, because right now with our system, it's so agonizing the way that it's currently executed, where it takes like 2 or 3 decades and endless appeals for a capital punishment to be done, that effectively like multiple families have testified saying like, you either need to kill him or you need to give him life in prison. But you cannot keep going back and forth with this appeals process because it basically makes it so the family cannot heal and not move on. So weirdly enough, if you were just like, no, life in prison and that's it, like that would actually heal probably some spiritual wounds for some victims' families because of the certainty. Even if it wasn't like a fully just outcome, the certainty of the outcome would be some level of like spiritual and psychological relief.
Yeah. I think the coldest part of my argument is that I don't think that should be factored in.
The family's desires for capital punishment or not capital punishment should be factored.
And the only reason one reason would be, imagine 2 identical cases, but 2 different families. In one case, they did a crime that's on the fence for capital punishment. One family votes for it, the other one doesn't. Like, would you want to like give that power to the 5 nearest relatives of that person, or like, is there a case by case on this, or?
I don't know, to be honest. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because like I've only seen victim impact take away from a capital punishment sentence, never enhance a capital punishment sentence. So for instance, like I've seen families say, hey, we're Christian, we don't believe in, killing, we believe in turning the other cheek, we want to provide the person who killed our son or whatever the opportunity for redemption and forgiveness through God's grace. Therefore, we actually want the state to not pursue the death penalty. And I've heard that argument before. I've never heard, and maybe this is ignorance on my part, but I've never heard, oh yeah, they killed my son and the state was waffling on whether or not it's going to be capital punishment. So I'm going to say yes, capital punishment, because fuck them. And then that's what motivated a state attorney to go for capital punishment. I don't, I would actually have to hear a specific case of that happening, because I don't think I have.
As a hypothetical, just to explore your spot.
Yeah, as a hypothetical, I don't think that should be the determining factor. If anything, I think that it should probably work in one direction, where clemency and mercy is calculated by the family's wishes, but that's about it. So basically, if the family is neutral, where they're like, I don't want the responsibility, I don't want to be deciding this person's fate, then I think the state should be deciding it. And then I think it should only work for clemency and mercy, where like a Christian family comes out and says, no, we want him to be spared. But I also think that, as an example with serial killing, their wishes should be calculated in totality with the rest of the victims. If you had like 14 victims and 13 of them say, either we don't want the responsibility and or fuck that, put him down, and then one family says, no, we're Christian, I don't think that should fucking tilt the state's decision.
Yeah.
Because it should be the totality of the balance of justice.
One last question about this sort of firewall that I want to have, right? Like,
sure,
you've got the veterinarian's office is next to the emergency room, right? And you got the perfect cow and the perfect puppy next door, and the world's first human just got in a car accident and comes into the ER. Now, let's say the kidney of the bad person, the escaped serial killer who ran from prison, and now they got him, right? But they got to like save his life. The doctor's like, oh guys, this kidney's going to save the cow and the dog next door. Should it be baked into our institutions that the doctor, knowing everything's for sure true, right? He escaped from prison. We know he's a bad guy.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
This is a one-off moral decision. Like maybe if there was a wink and nod with the nurse, and like you could kind of almost understand the doctor doing it, but I would argue it should never be the hospital's policy to allow it. And
right,
I understand the doctor's point of view.
I would bear trap that.
Policy is what I'm talking about.
I would bear trash can that, where I would say, even if the worst human being's vital organs could be harvested in order to save the world's most perfect pet, we should still delineate human value somehow. Where weirdly enough, like I still stand by my argumentation in reference to like carnivore diets for serial killers and all that kind of shit. But I agree with you that within the bear trash can hypothetical of like, we have to set a rule that is standard enough that we just have clear expectations. And if this situation happens, it just is what it is. I actually would defer to you on that, where I would say, no, you can't kill the fucking serial killer in order to harvest his organs in order to save the perfect dog, So.
Right on. That was my last sort of back and forth piece, I think. I mean, there's other stuff, but we got
5 seconds on the clock.
Good.
Yeah.
Connor's dumb. I'm smart.
All right. So we started with Connor okay. I don't know how they usually do this. Do they usually end with the one that started? Is that how?
No, I've seen people do both. I've seen people flip it. I've seen people keep it the same.
I think because you had the first word, I'll let Michael have the last word. So what I'll do is I'll have you go first and then Michael go last. If that works.
Sounds good.
So are you ready with your closing?
So it is me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I would say is I stand by pretty much my original argumentation that I think that the things that I hear about capital punishment criticism that actually Michael did not forward tonight, which was kind of refreshing, they still stay the same. Admin processing we could cut down on by proving capital punishment crimes beyond a shadow of a doubt instead of beyond a reasonable doubt. All of the humane concerns about like how we execute people could be alleviated by using opiates. We could use fentanyl or we could use heroin. Literally doesn't matter. We could give them a decent punch off. The way I analogize it is that when you're putting down a pit bull who mauled a child or mauled a human being to death. We're not killing the animal because we want to, punish the animal. We're killing the animal because we want to prevent further harm from society. And so as a result, we're ending the problem. And we don't want to provide for that animal's continued well-being and existence when it has proven itself to be such a problem for society. Now, weirdly enough, one of the things, I don't think this is contradictory, but I think it expands the argument that Michael actually knocked loose in my brain tonight, is that I think that there are some crimes that are so egregious that like life in prison is not enough. So if we had a serial killer who specifically targeted children, kidnapped them, raped them, murdered them, all that kind of stuff. And let's say they killed like a dozen kids. When you add up even the life of one child, or if you add up the lives of a dozen children and all the people they affect, not just the time stolen from the child, but the time stolen from the parents, the time stolen from the grandparents, the time stolen from extended family, the time stolen from friends, there's no way to pay back that debt. And so since there's no way to pay back that debt, it's better to just cut it off. I also made some vegetarian arguments where effectively if a cow was a decent cow based off of supply and demand, I don't know why we're killing and harvesting cows and chickens and fish for their meat when we're basically going to be serving it to a piece of shit. I think that is a supply and demand curve. While I think Michael Hatchtube is right, that it does get lost in the logistical calculations of our society, I still think we can look at a basic supply and demand curve and realize that most serial killers or most humans are going to be omnivorous or carnist. What was another interesting argument before I kind of wrap? But and then Dashkar Sarnaev and Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson and Anders Breivik. These are people who have committed such egregious crimes that for me, their mere presence in our society after they've committed these egregious crimes is actually an affront to my sense of justice, probably for the calculus of what they took from society. And so as a result, these people should not be tolerated. They shouldn't just be incarcerated. They should be euthanized. They should be done. That they cannot offend again if they are euthanized. They cannot threaten other people again if they are euthanized. They cannot, affect our psyches or our consciousness if they are dead and in the ground. There is a finality in death. And one last thing, I think that while Michael Hatchtube is well-intended, that he wants to push the human species to be the best that it can be, I think that there are several quotes from very smart people about how failing to be angry or failing to be outraged when there's horrid shit going on is in and of itself a moral failure. So anger shouldn't guide exactly what we do, but failing to get angry is also a sin. So I'll leave it there.
I would say
All right.
that Connor's my ideal pro-capitalist punishment person, right? And I don't think his position on this is going to represent him being bad in any other part of life, right? Sometimes you hear someone's opinion on something, and you're like, oh, this is going to be troublesome in other areas of their life, right? This is a well-contained and thought-out argument. I don't think it's dumb, but I do want to kind of hit one emotional cue to emotionally manipulate you all in my last argument, and that is to the self-poisoning. And I want to imagine a scenario. You've got a neighbor, and that neighbor has a dog, and you find out from your Wi-Fi that dog's a robot, right? And that's fine. It's in the future. It's got a robot dog that is playing with it, right? The kid plays with it. And then one day in the front yard, the dad is just choking this robot dog out, this beautiful, cute robot dog, right? And no one's dying, right? There's no animal with sentience dying. But the kid's looking through the window at this. The kid knows it's a robot too, right? Everyone knows it's a robot. But every day at sunset, this guy comes back out front, his kid watching through the window and is choking that robot dog to death. And then restarts it the next day, right? It's squealing, it's making all the horrible sounds that wake you up in your nightmares, right? That man is poisoning himself, and he's poisoning his son in a way that, even though there's no technical negative utility, there is a vibes poison that is the kind of idea I'm trying to get at with why we don't kill people. Because as that one guy in Thor Ragnarok said, we already got him.
All right. Is that that's your finish, Michael Hatch? You're good? All right.
All set.
All right. So I threw a poll in the chat, gentlemen. Would you like to interface with random peoples on
Okay.
this argument? Q&As.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got no out time, so whatever.
All right. And you're more than welcome to throw the link out as well. So here we go. I'll throw it out to my chat. So I was going to ask you, Connor, do you think that there is a level of acceptable mistake? Like, what would you say, like, how many, like, one in how many would be an acceptable level of mistaken, like they weren't quite guilty, but sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, I interrupted too. Were you asking how many innocent people will we tolerate being executed?
Yes. Like, what would be,
zero? It should be zero. That's why I want to move to the proof beyond a shadow of a doubt standard. So we've been at a beyond a reasonable doubt standard for a long time, but like I said, it's been proven, I think, through exculpatory DNA evidence that there were some people who were on death row who did not commit the crime. And so as a result, like, I think it should be zero. Basically, like, we got videotapes, we got DNA evidence, we got multiple witnesses, we got CCTV. But if we have those things, you're fucked.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I fall on the standard as well. I don't like the idea of the death penalty unless we're sure that we're getting the right person, because the moment that you're taking the lives of innocents, then it's like, oh, well, where's the faith in that system?
There's that California case that actually got popped up into the news recently because Scott Peterson or something like that. He had a boat. He rented the boat. His wife disappeared one day. He went to the marina based off of some kind of witness statement or something like that on that same day. His wife and his unborn child were found in the bay at a later time. But they have a shitload of circumstantial evidence, and they convicted him of murder, and he is in jail for the rest of his life. And I think that he 90% committed the murder or whatever. But that would be an example where I would not do capital punishment, because we only have circumstantial evidence. We do not have proof beyond a shadow of a doubt that he killed his wife.
That makes perfect sense to me. I was going to ask Michael Hatch a question too, and I cannot remember for the life of me what that question was going to be.
Oh, no worries.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. What do you guys think of if the robots get smart enough, or we run into the sentient aliens you brought up earlier? I just I'm kicking that can down the road for now, but do you guys have any initial thoughts on that from your?
I agree with your general argument. I've made neuroplastic arguments before that effectively, if you torture or kill somebody. So for instance, there's arguments about cartoon pornography of illicit sex acts and whether or not people should be prohibited in consuming that because there's no demonstrable harm. I don't know if I want it. I probably do want it legally prohibited realistically, just off of vibes. I don't have a good argument for it. But off of whether or not I want to fucking hang out with you, fuck that. Yeah. So, but in reference to your aliens or sentient creature thing where it poisons the soul, well, I think we should deal with aliens based off of sapience. So if there is a alien out there that demonstrates the capacity to have a similar level of sentient experience to humans, but is also capable of communicating diplomatically, we should treat them as people, even if they're not aliens. I know that's not a very or even if they are aliens. I know that's not a very Warhammer take, but I think that's a very real take.
I was going to ask, actually, if you were in the Warhammer world, right?
Yeah.
Are there any versions from the imagination of that world that create interesting moral questions around this? God Emperor of Earth.
Oh, yeah.
2 million people be saved 1 billion. Or I don't know, what do you come across?
Oh, well, I mean, the Eldar are specifically like hyper intelligent, hyper competent, capable of communicating in human language. Oftentimes when they are interacting with humanity, it's because they're trying to push humanity in a certain direction in order to avoid calamity. But what's interesting about that is the human species still takes a very strict anti-Eldar stance, because the Eldar like have it where they will manipulate billions of humans into their deaths if it means that they can save one Eldar. So they have a very like strict supremacist, utilitarian calculus about the value of human life. And so that has led humanity to be like, we're not going to trust these motherfuckers. Like, we'll work with them when we absolutely fucking need to, but we are not going to be allies at all.
These are
and we're going to kill them when we can.
So remember in the Two Towers spoiler alert from the movie, when the elves come to help defend Two Towers, right? Yeah. Like, elves dying in that battle to me is like almost a little more powerful, because they're going to live like another 2,000 years.
Oh yeah.
Like another 20 years or 40, right?
No, and they're sacrificing their immortality. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, what about a higher species than us? Like, that would look at us like ants. Like, if they have a genuinely more rich or meaningful consciousness somehow, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that would be, right? But like,
I think that's the complicated part,
weirdly
because
enough,
they're going to
though,
believe that's the case. I think that's
well,
the weirdest part, because they're going to believe that's the case, regardless of whether or not it is more rich or not. Just like we do.
Well,
currently.
yeah, if there's an interstellar species that is interstellar before us, then chances are they are smarter than us. But what I was going to say is, weirdly enough, I don't know if I'm a human supremacist, but I'm definitely like I'm a humans first, space colonizer. And when it comes, there's this interesting thing about Fulgrim and Perturabo. They're both Chaos Primarchs, and so Fulgrim is trying to convince Perturabo of the godhood of the Chaos Gods, and he says, "Oh well, they might not be creator gods in the way that we understand like human mythology, but they are still beings infinitely more powerful to us, or powerful than us, to the point that even you and our Astartes, our Space Marines, they're like bacteria to these sentient, powerful beings in the warp." And what Perturabo responds with, allegedly, I haven't read the quote myself, but I think it's really funny. He's like, "Well, if bacteria is concentrated enough, it can kill a human." And so what he's saying is like, we can still be perceived as ants, and yet if we are of unified purpose and intelligence sufficiently, we could kill a god. And so that's my attitude as well, is I wouldn't instantaneously embrace my Eldar masters. I would be more on the antagonistic side, I suppose.
I think I'd be with you on that. Yeah. I have an irrational human loyalty that you were,
Yeah, it's my fucking species. We evolved here. Come on, man.
It's that bear trap, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's great too that it's shown that way, like the Chaos Gods versus the Loyalists, because it kind of gives you a good evil distinction. But in reality, that good evil distinction doesn't exist, because the bad guys that you're fighting often think they're the good guys and you're the bad guy. And I think that's kind of across the board how human interaction works.
Oftentimes chaos is so evil that, in my opinion, it's undeniable that they're evil. But the chaos factions that I find most interesting are the ones who, like you said, they believe they're doing the right thing, because they are the Emperor. I know not everybody's gonna be a 40K nerd in chat, but the Emperor was trying to upset the balance between humanity and the gods of chaos by seizing power for the human species itself. And so people who serve the chaos gods, all they're doing is they're returning to a state of nature. So they're actually reinstituting the correct and oldest religion.
So this is like a Hobbesian sort of framework almost. It's like the nasty, brutal, and short, right? Like Thomas Hobbes was like very, very beginning of the Enlightenment. He's like, we need a state that needs a monopoly on force, right? He's like, probably it should be a king. So he wasn't quite doing the democracy republic stuff yet, but like his argument, when people say Hobbes is arguing for a state of nature, he's describing the medieval world, like the world outside of law, and how good it could be if we have our own bubble, right? And so we kind of have two tiers in our world. Like we do have a Hobbesian world above the national scale, right? And within countries, we have another scale. And so when you see things like World War II, let's say, and you're hanging people at the end of that war, there's this really messy space as the war is closing and they're doing these military trials with people. And you're just like, the aliens come and they're like, are humans going to be cool with rule of law, or are they Hobbesian, state of nature things? And they're going to be like, oh, wait, well, on what level? Right?
And the answer is going to be yes. Right? Like we are savage and we are civilized. We are both. But weirdly enough, I think that biological limitation, I know we always have these fantasies about, I think that so like extrasolar species, anybody who's capable of like traveling from stars to stars or whatever, are going to be incredibly advanced. But I also think that they're still going to be constrained by evolution and biological limitation. So they're still going to have to eat. They're still going to have to produce food. They're still going to have to either be carnist or omnivorous or something like that. I don't think there's any like hard rules that they have to be like bipedal with hands, but having some kind of like manipulative, and I mean manipulative like you can control things, having some kind of like manipulative structure, is going to be useful. So I think aliens are going to be weirdly, if we ever bump into them, I think they're going to be like weirdly familiar.
I think there's arguments for convergent evolution on like binocular vision, bipedal motion, like a whole bunch of that stuff. Yeah.
That would assume too, though, that they haven't reached like significant artificial intelligence and creative robotic life that they then send instead of themselves as heralds for
that's
their
what
cause.
Scares me about AI is what if and this hasn't happened yet, basically every AI expert that I bumped into has said like it's just like a really 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 good large language model. That's like it's just so far that's what it is. But the fear is if we actually ever achieve artificial general intelligence, like truly like a digital sentience, that the digital sentience will be so capable of complex thought that it will be like it's in a different language. Like it will be incomprehensible to the human species because of the complexity of thought that it's able to process. And I do worry about that sometimes.
If I was an alien, I would come pretending to be God doing Revelation.
I mean, that's
maybe
like instead of Independence Day craft, it's like dude with a beard in the clouds, tablets, giant cube floating. There's the whole thing. Like
that is the plot of Prometheus. The plot of Prometheus is that the engineers kidnapped Jesus Christ and educated him in higher moral virtue, sent him back to the human species in order to teach us to become civilized. But when we killed him, they were like, fuck the human species. We're gonna fucking xenocide them with black goo, black goo xenomorph shit. That's unironically, that's the plot.
You had no problem with like 6,000 like Spartacus gladiators along the Appian Way, right? Yeah. So that many crucifixions fine, but you kill our guy,
Right.
Well, I mean, somebody says just the in-group preference, okay.
Yeah. Kat says, I wish I knew what people were talking about when they talk about witches. I've never heard of Xenos. Xenos is just another term for alien. So
yeah, like other, like xenophobic, fear of other.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we?
Well, are you going to read super chats or have call-ins or what's the deal? Because I do want to go to sleep at a reasonable time, but I did want to be friendly as well.
Sure. I threw the link out to both chats through our shared from StreamYard, but here's from yours because I didn't have any super chats during. So,
sure.
Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, sure. Doobie for 10 says, I don't know, dude. I think anyone who can read the Toolbox Killers transcript or watch the videos of Leonard Lake and Charles Nguyen mocking victims and come away opposed to capital punishment is sus, in my opinion. I'm just going to go ahead and agree with Doobie here, even if Michael Hatchtube doesn't. Maybe Michael Hatchtube still wants to appeal to the natures of our higher selves. But for me, it's like, yeah, having unrepentant serial killers just spend decades behind bars does not feel sufficient to me to what they took from the world. So,
and on my side, I would say if I were to read through these cases in all the visceral detail, then I would be at the store shopping while I'm hungry, and I'm not going to make my wisest decisions. So if I'm designing a system, the hospital policy with the surgeon, or a justice system as regards to death penalty, I don't think asking me right after I familiarize myself with the most horrible human serial killers is going to put me in a state of mind that's going to give a wise policy answer. And
okay, but on that point,
kill the humans.
Kat,
on that
also,
point,
this
Michael,
is an important chat, so I need to do it. Kat says, what about witches, though? What are they referred to? Hereticus. The Ordo Hereticus is the Inquisition that hunts witches.
So, Michael, on that point, though, when you say that, there's a certain level in me that sparks this question of, sure, but what about the resentment that builds in your society because things are not taken in anger that should be? Because I think that the system,
like the United Kingdom right now,
against the leadership.
Yeah,
no, like the United Kingdom right now, where they have to ban certain like xenophobic speech and all that kind of shit. And then, you know, on occasion, it's still statistically substantially more peaceful than the United States, but there's still like ethno-religious race riots because of the frustration of the people feeling like the Pakistani grooming gangs weren't dealt with by the state.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I think if like you have a functioning democracy with peaceful transitions of power and votes that are reliable, and that system is following its constitutional order to develop its justice system, and it does so, and their choice is to stay with the death penalty, I wouldn't want to tell them they shouldn't. In terms of the legal process, like I would want them to have their democracy, their republic, do what it needs to do for itself. I would also argue with them, hey, I think that's a bad idea, but I support the choice you're making, like for your, you know what I mean? Like I would support the process of them doing that if they chose to, and disagree with the outcome. Like, but my disagreement would be more detached if it was another country. But from my own country, I'd be like more upset about it. But you know, maybe I'll get maybe we'll do better in the next election and can change it back. I don't know. Yeah.
I see. All right, so we have another super chat from Counterpoints chat from Grassroots Hegemon. Maybe we just bring back scapegoating. In general, no death penalty, but once a year we pick one candidate and just kill the shit out of them. Sheesh. Damn.
Listen, man, like
brutal.
This is like some like democratic purge shit, you know? Like if we could have like annual nominations where it's like OJ Simpson when he's still alive, OJ Simpson, Casey Anthony, Anders Breivik, you know, like just one we eliminated capital punishment except for one person per year.
There's a history of this though. The ostracism in Greece, like under certain conditions, people would just get voted, and they like, things are too weird right now. You're messing up our politics. Come back in 10 years and we'll hug. But right now you got to go.
Right. Have one joiner. So
like
far,
once a year, it is literally something like that. I forget the details, but like, yeah.
I do think that while it satiates my monkey brain desire for vengeance, I do remind myself that what wasn't it was it Plato? Wasn't or was it Socrates? I always mix the two up. But one of them was voted to drink hemlock by the assembly of Athens.
Yeah, it was Socrates. It was Socrates.
Yeah. That story is
voted to put him to death.
Maybe
right. So that there for me. Yeah. Their desire for bloodthirsty mob vengeance was satisfied by a 51-49 vote, killing one of the most articulate men of the ancient world. So maybe I'll listen to Michael a little bit tonight and say I shouldn't indulge my thirst for blood too often.
There's a messed up addendum to that, and close your ears if you don't want that Socrates story spoiled. But like.
It's been a few thousand years. I think we'll be okay.
We can have a different debate because I think the older the story is, the more important it is to protect the spoilers. But that's a separate topic. So the people who basically put him to death assumed and gave him every chance to escape in the night and gave them like money to his assistants, be like, just get him out of here, right? Like they voted thinking he would escape, and Socrates showed up the next day like, okay, you got to kill me.
He had to prove a point.
He made them do it.
He stood on business.
Yeah.
Although that does feel like the ultimate fedora move.
You know who I picture when I see
Socrates? You voted to kill me, bitch. Now you got to do it.
Imagine Kramer from Seinfeld. That's Socrates.
True.
Annoying people with
Yeah.
weird questions, being about that age and energy level. Like, it's Kramer.
That's funny.
Welcome, Real Serious. Did you have some questions for our debaters?
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Space Ghost.
You're a little low, but yeah.
Wait, let me. Hello. Better?
Yes.
Yep.
You
Good.
Okay. First off, I want to ask something because I saw a lot of the chat was asking, what's on that hat, Michael?
So I'm doing some podcasting on my summer break, and I like podcasts, and I noticed that every podcast out there has tasteful vertical brown lines in the background, even sports shows and stuff. And I thought, well, if I put it on my hat, I can have good conversations wherever I go. And I'm working on some armor, though. If things got bad today with Connor, I'm working on a Roman helmet version. If I was really getting beat up, but I haven't finished the helmet yet. But just for podcast safety,
So on the go debate tactics. I like it.
Yeah, get a little sound dampening,
Okay, it wasn't so much a question. It was just that while I was hearing the debate, there were some things that I think weren't brought up as much, which I sort of get because Michael sort of wanted to appeal to like a sort of what's better for the health of society type of argument, and Connor, I think you probably know some of these arguments, but in general, it's the idea that if you're okay with capital punishment, you are in general okay with the occasional death of an innocent, just to be able to kill the people who are deserving of capital punishment. I know that you mentioned like establishing this beyond a shadow of a doubt, but I think when we're talking about this like pragmatically and in like a functioning society, how would you like begin to do that? Because there are statistics like right now that cite that, for instance, it says like 40% of death row inmates are innocent, and this is calculated to be like double or something the amount that are exonerated. So like 1 to 2% are exonerated. So how do you like reconcile that?
I don't know if I do. I think I would say that like just over time, the way that Michael Hatchtube wants to execute a better justice by eliminating the death penalty, I would want to execute a better justice by spreading this idea of beyond a shadow of a doubt for capital punishment. Be kind of tough when I'm, hard stuck where I am. But what I would say is like that I would want to see some of the narrative. So just as an example, in the state of Georgia, maybe about 10 years ago, there was a CNN article about a specific man who had been or who was going to be put to death incorrectly. And CNN was aggressively pushing for his retrial. Well, the evidence that they had that the actual story was 2 or 3 guys are running around doing hood shit when they're like young. They shoot into a random car. They blow off somebody's jaw. So one person gets hit in the jaw and their jaw gets fucking shot off. Then they go to a bakery or something like that, like a donut shop, and they start beating the shit out of a homeless man. And then a off-duty cop runs up and tries to intervene, and they shoot the off-duty cop in the chest and he dies. And so what happens is there's 3 people. I think it might have been 2, but it could have been 3. There were 3 people who were involved in the incident, and they both said, no, this guy's the shooter. Okay, this guy's a shooter. He killed the off-duty cop. He was firing into the random car. He blew off that guy's jaw, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what CNN wanted to do in order to reopen the trial is they said that a random person, well, not a random person, but a family friend of the person who was being euthanized by the state, they heard at a house party that the other person who had actually put him behind prison and gotten him like the death penalty or whatever, at a house party, he was like, actually, I was the shooter, but I got kids, so I'm not going to say anything about it. So for me, it's like the nuances of that case is like that person is not, they might not be guilty of the crime for which they are accused, but they're still guilty of rolling around town, firing guns into random fucking buildings, seeing an off-duty cop get fucking killed, beating the shit out of a fucking homeless person. So is this what we're talking about when we're talking about innocent, or, you know, because for me, like my sympathy plummets over time.
Okay,
So-
but I feel like you would still agree that if this person's crimes didn't match up to that, you know, level of this person is deserving of death, then like you would still not kill them for that, right?
I wouldn't if I was in charge, but I'm not in charge.
Okay, so then like I don't get the point of the argument then. Like why bring up these like
The point of the argument is I'm
separate
saying
cases?
I accept I accept that you're saying that between like 0 and 4% of people are innocent, and I'm asking what is like the degree of their innocence.
I don't
Is it similar scenarios to the one that I just
Yeah,
described,
but why
or
why
is it
does
like they were in a different state? You know, like
I
what?
know, but why does it matter if the idea is that these people need to be sufficiently proven guilty beyond the shadow of a doubt in order to execute them?
I don't. What are you asking? What are you asking me to say?
Like why does it matter if this person is like, let's say, I don't know, let me see.
I'm just
trying to
not
come up
losing
with
it.
with a
I think what I'm trying to
hypothetical.
communicate is the fact that I'm just not losing any sleep over that case.
Yeah, but
I
it's
accept
not,
that
I
with our current
understand, like,
system,
I understand, and like I don't think anybody's losing sleep over like the I don't know. Let's say there's like this rapist serial killer guy that's around an area where a homicide happened, and they happen to catch him, and they're like, oh, for this specific homicide, we're gonna put you to death, and then it ends up being like, oh, actually they didn't actually like kill that victim, they just raped them. They were on their way, they raped them, they left them there, and then this random hobo showed up and actually was the person to kill that person, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to feel bad if that guy is like sentenced to death? Well, no, because he's a horrible human being. But it's not the fact that we going to feel bad or not. That's not what matters. Is that within the justice system, does the penalty match up to the crime that they're committing? Because we are not legislating and we are not adjudicating for just the one case. We're adjudicating for all of them. So whatever standards we hold for the one case, it needs to be the standards for every single one of them.
So
okay.
Are you, is your question then that is it just that somebody who didn't commit the actual crime but may have committed lesser crimes gets the penalty for the greater crime? You're asking if that's just? Is that what the question is?
No, not necessarily. I was just pointing out that statistic of like 2% of people, let's say, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2%, are exonerated while they're on death row. Around 4% are calculated to be innocent. I'd have to research the actual statistics. It was a study by the National Society of Science or something like that. And so I'd have to see like to what extent, how do they consider someone to be innocent or not, right?
Yeah.
But
because of that.
But even if we're
finding...
talking about, yeah, even if we're talking about 1 or 2%, and maybe like some people slip by the wayside who are genuinely like, they have been exonerated, so they are innocent of this crime. They do not deserve to be put to death for this. That's still like 1 or 2 people in 100. That's like a huge, like, I would not be comfortable like killing one innocent for every 100 psychos that I'm putting to death, even though I agree with the psychos deserving death, because it's just the equation does not match. Like, I am okay with, let's say, a cop on the patrol, right, being able to use guns and being able to, you know, kill someone, because the equation there is, okay, on most cases, cops being able to use their guns means that they're going to be able to save more innocent lives, as opposed to the random off chance, right, where they are going to shoot an innocent, which does happen. But they do need to be able to use those guns in order to save innocent lives. I don't see how we need to be able to kill these people in order to, you know, produce a greater good in society that is equivalent to the 1 in 100 or 2 in 100 people that might die under the death penalty and that are innocent.
But you know, we're 5 assholes on the internet talking about politics, right? So what I would say is that, like, let's say that we decided as a community that death penalty is just like, it's our shit now. We're going to talk about it. We're going to evaluate death sentence cases. We're going to look at criminal prosecution, blah, 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 blah. And there was like a binary path in the way forward between let's abolish capital punishment entirely, or let's do Connor's autistic, proof beyond a shadow of a doubt standard and enshrine that in law. I'm just telling you, like, number one, the chances of us like doing that are very low. Number two, I'm going to go for my autistic standard because I do think that like, I'm not like a raw utilitarian or consequentialist where I think like, oh, utilitarian analysis is the end all be all. I do think that there are some things that are just fucking true. Like Doshkar Sarnaev and all those fucking people deserve to fucking die. So, that I don't know if that answers your question or if you're making a statement or if you're asking me to make a statement, but that's where I'm at.
It's more of a counter argument, right? That I agree that these people deserve to die, but when we're like weighing this on the balance, it's like this person's deservingness of death versus the innocent person that is going to be executed eventually by the state, and whether they are deserving of that same fate or not,
Yeah, but what do you think I'm saying about the innocent person that you object to?
That you're okay with the occasional innocent dying, even if we are talking about a system under like the shadow of a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, like we still agree that we are not, unless we're talking about like extreme hypotheticals, we are not anywhere close to like a utopia where we can 100% like.
Well, I think shadow of a doubt would hit some of the people that I care about. So, for instance, like Doshkar Sarnaev and his brother died during the performance of the crime, but they publicized that they did the crime. There's physical evidence and DNA evidence that they committed the crime. They were caught by law enforcement on security camera doing the crime. They were caught fleeing law enforcement and getting into gunfights and throwing pipe bombs at law enforcement later in the day. That person is 100% guilty based off of the totality of evidence, and it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, whereas I think I brought up, I think his name's Scott Peterson. I don't know if I'm mixing up people. But Scott Peterson, he rented a boat. I think it was in San Francisco. I think it was weirdly enough, like near Alcatraz. And he basically he was near the marina on the day that his wife disappeared. His wife was found. She was tied with a rope and thrown into the bay. And I think her body split in half and they found like two halves of her body floating, including her dead child. So he was spotted near the marina, wife was found, and then his whole defense was like, oh, well, there was a weird van across the street, so maybe they kidnapped and murdered her and threw her in the fucking bay, and that was his alibi, right? So for me, there's like a 90% chance that that motherfucker did it, but he wouldn't meet the threshold that I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I would agree with what Counterpoints is saying. Like, there's always going to be a non-zero chance, right? But you need to reduce that chance to as close to zero as humanly possible, with the foreknowledge that yes, there may be some mistakes made, but the standard he set is there's like iron tight. You have to be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Basically, there would have to be like the jury, the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney would all have to have schizophrenia in order to convict an innocent person based off of my standard. And they would all have to have schizophrenia at the exact same time.
Okay, I just feel like we are sort of discussing like extreme hypothetical scenarios where like I feel like I could also say like, okay, yeah.
Well, I think Michael Hatchett is discussing an extreme hypothetical scenario where we pass a constitutional amendment in order to end capital punishment.
On behalf of Michael's argument, I'm just saying that it's like I could also say like, yeah, if I could snap my fingers, I'd want every single like guilty person to like go to prison right now immediately. And yet, I mean, we can say that that's fine, but that's when we want to put that into practice. And
how can I not forward this argumentation about Michael? Michael's saying that he wants to pass a constitutional amendment in order to end capital punishment inside the United States. There's no real political momentum inside the United States to end capital punishment. There are a ton of passionate people who are advocates for ending capital punishment. There's innocence projects and there's non-governmental organizations that are advocating for it. But I think like the threshold for a amendment is so high This isn't even on the fucking radar.
Okay, but why are you comparing like
because you keep saying the scenario that I'm saying is unlikely to occur.
Yeah, I mean,
because obviously, like, what are you thinking about a scenario in like the future where like we can 100% precog every single crime and determine like
no, I literally told you about Doshkar Sarnayev 10 seconds ago.
Yeah,
but you'd have to argue it. You'd have
pretty high. It's like it's a tough bar to hit.
The point of all of this is that because we are not perfect, we need to move to as perfect a system as possible. And if we need the death penalty to deal with people that deserve the death penalty, the best way to move towards perfect is to be 100% sure, no matter what, if we're going to end a life.
Yeah,
right. It's the same thing with like Ted Bundy and shit.
In your case, Abe, you said there's always going to be a non-zero chance. That's what I'm arguing. Like you guys are saying, oh, we want it to be 100%
yeah, but the non-zero
perfect.
chance is so absurd that it's not something worth taking seriously. So, for instance, like with Doshkar Sarnayev, the totality of evidence is so overwhelming that you would effectively have to have like 330 million people have collective schizophrenia all at the same time. And that's not a non-zero chance. Maybe 330 million people do have schizophrenia and they deluded themselves into believing that this guy is, guilty. But barring that 0.00000000000 add another 1,000 zeros, 1% possibility, this motherfucker's guilty. Like his DNA's on the fucking pipe bombs. He left the fucking manifesto. He was, like I could list all the fucking evidence against Doshkar Sarnayev, but that dude is guilty. He did the thing. Why wouldn't we kill that motherfucker?
Let's say we can get to that standard of like 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt in our current society and implement that, and we like are in agreement that it's like 0.0000001% chance that an innocent is going to be killed under that system. Fine. How do we contend with the death penalty today in our society? Like, do we keep it then as it is?
I mean, I would literally pass legislation in order to reform it to my fucking standard. But you keep saying like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. Well, neither is the fucking banning of the practice entirely.
But if you had to choose between, like, you have two options. You just remove the death penalty as it is because it's effectively killing like 1 in 100 innocents, or you just
I hate your question.
Maintain it.
I hate it with my whole. I hate it with every fiber of my fucking being. So okay, so I think I know what you're saying now. You're saying no hypothetical, no Connor gets to improve anything, system as it is now, or no capital punishment.
Exactly.
No capital punishment, and I fucking hate you for cutting to. I fucking hate you for cutting to the heart of the matter. I hate you so much right now.
I hate it for it to get better.
No, it's a great question, but I'm having like tears of rage pool up in my eyeballs right now because unfortunately I am a gay liberal / libertarian in the sense that some smart guy 200 fucking years ago said it's better for 100 guilty men to go free than for one innocent man to be incarcerated. And as fucking cringe and highfalutin as that is, I think it's a decent standard. So congratulations, you won real serious, you piece of shit.
Yes, but Blackstone's formula is you have to look at the wording very precisely because it says it's better. It doesn't say that that's the ideal, and it doesn't say that that's possible. Yeah, sorry, I've kind of wanted Real to sort of get his points out before jumping in.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for the debate, Abe. Thank you for hosting. Thank you, Counter and Michael, for this was very interesting discussion. So his presumption of innocence foundation is that is what we should strive for. But he later states that he realizes that that's an impossibility because the possibility for this standard burden of proof, the presumption of innocence, and the ultimate 100% guaranteed this person is guilty is so impossible that you would, if you were to get into that sort of a society would be so perfect. It would be such a utopia. You'd have no need for such a criminal justice system because everybody would act appropriately.
Dr. Functional, you don't think there's an intermediary phase where we might not have the death penalty and not yet be perfect?
it's possible in the anything's possible realm, but I am a personally believer in the death penalty. However, I'm a firm disbeliever in government. So as Counter said, in its current state, I would say no, because I can't trust the government. I'm from Canada, like my own government, suppressed its own people. I look at my current administration on the federal level. They are criminals. Like, I don't think that we should, as the people, give them, and you can justify that in the United States and almost every Western country too. I don't believe you can give them, as the people, the power to make such decisions. I think it's too hard. I think the government has shown that it is so corrupt and so willing to take the easy way out. You can see it with criminal prosecution. And another thing I wanted to bring up that I thought, Michael, you could have really hammered Counter on this, is the ways in which the current legal system using a current example, the Central Park Five. There is no shadow of a doubt in this case that those 5 gentlemen, I use that term very loosely, but I'm trying to keep it PG for Abe's sake, because if I said what I really had to, we'd all be shut down. This is why I'm hiding from the Canadian government, by the way.
Our hats match. Did you notice?
But the opposite side, so places like the Innocence Project have a financial incentive to get these people who are guilty. They are 110% guilty, and I would have seen those face capital punishment. But now, 25 years later, they obfuscate the legal system. They throw doubt into a already closed and shut case. If you know anything about this case, these people were all guilty. And
my understanding is they were exonerated. Am I remembering that wrong?
Well,
they were.
So I want to back Dr. Functional up real quick. So as when it comes to Central Park 5, effectively what happened that night were dozens of teenagers were running around punching people in the face, throwing bricks into fucking cars, and like all of law enforcement got called. And then like a dozen teenagers, there was like a jogger in the park. They like knocked her out, dragged her like 20 feet under a bridge or something, and like took turns raping her and shit. And I think this was the 80s, so I don't think like DNA was as sophisticated as it was. Like, but effectively what they did is they found the kids who were like a part of this riotous mob, and then they like pressured each one of them consecutively in order to snitch on the other ones to get like close to the rape, until they eventually like, came up with whatever their accused perpetrators were. But effectively, like, regardless of whether or not these specific gentlemen, loosely stated, stuck their penises into this knocked out woman's unconscious body, they were present at the time of the rape. They witnessed like a woman being knocked out, dragged 20 feet, and raped while unconscious. And so while being a part of this riotous mob. So for me, it's kind of like, when you say exonerated, that word kind of loses its luster for me for the Central Park 5, because like, for instance, like I have 2 boys. If my boys were running around throwing bricks into fucking car windows, beating the shit out of random passersby, and then witnessed a fucking gang rape, and then didn't have the balls to snitch out whoever actually perpetuated the gang rape, I don't think my kid is innocent of shit. So sorry, that might be a little bit of my former cop racism coming out.
You also have some of the facts incorrect.
Well, it's been a while since I've read about it, so feel free to correct me.
It's a long case, and I was alive and an adult at that point when it happened in the 90s. So I'm old, not as old as some, but so the 5 boys at the time were not pressured by police, but if you've ever been a teenager questioned by police, like, I've done some unsavory things and I've done some stupid things. I've been pulled aside for shoplifting. I cracked. You crack. And these boys cracked. But the thing is that you did get right is each one pointed the finger at the other 4. And eventually, they would come back and say, well, the other 4 said that you did. And everybody finally said, yeah, basically they did. Now, what got them off, what got them exonerated was, and thank you Innocence Project for being is that after they left this woman for dead, another gentleman came by, again, using that term very loosely, and raped her again. Now, his DNA was found on scene, and he was later arrested. But then the Innocence Project contended, because he came afterwards, no pun intended, that these boys didn't do anything. And it's like, what? No, that doesn't exonerate anything. And this is why I bring this up as I cannot trust the system as is, because they do stupid ish like this, and it's just like, ugh. But like you counter, the Blackstone's formula comes in, and I go, I really hate you for asking that question, because I have to say, can't agree with it in its current iteration.
Yeah. That's why. So I promise you, I wasn't trying to obfuscate or dance away from Real Serious's question, but I got pissed. I got pissed as soon as I understood it, because basically I was like, well, Michael Hatchtube's alternative is just as likely as mine. And then he's like, no. Our current system or nothing. And it's like nothing, because 4% is too high. I think literally they put, I think it was like 1 in 25. So literally like 1 in 25 people on death row, they believe are actually like provably innocent. So
yeah. I like the standard of having that high bar to actually pass that line to put somebody on death row. I like that. But I think,
and I think it would be reasonable if if we actually had legislatures that were responding. Let's say that the Florida legislature got a shitload of pressure in order to abolish capital punishment because of some person was like innocent that they had executed or whatever. I would love to see the legislature say, no, we're not eliminating capital punishment, but we're going to increase our standards, which is going to reduce the amount of people who are on death row, and we're only going to provably be executing like 100% fucking guilty people, like 99.99999. Because as far as I know, 24 out of 25 of those motherfuckers, even according to the Innocence Project, they still deserve to get got. It's just that 1 out of fucking 25 motherfuckers that I feel bad for, or I'm worried about. And some, Dr. Functional said some dude from fucking 200 years ago did that quote about 100 guilty men going free. Unfortunately, I still believe that.
Well, yeah, because it could be me.
It could be me.
That's exactly why you want to be sure about these things, because a cop could sweep you up and be like, well, you fit the description, and they have an incentive to close cases, so they're going to do what they can to.
Especially for talking about.
There's something to consider, I think, here too about these news stories. When we're having one of these conversations, right? It's relevant to have good examples, right? As a practical matter, we're going to talk about examples that got on the news and we've all familiar with, right? There's a sort of self-selection process, right? But if you had a dashboard, right? Remember that COVID dashboard when it came out or whatever? Like if you had some kind of like genie created dashboard, Odin's Eye, whatever, like, and you had a ranking every day in the news of the worst things happening in the world, right? Like what's the worst thing happening in the world? Because objectively, I should care the most about like 10,000 people being murdered with machetes somewhere or something than I should about Central Park 5, right? But our attention in some sense does get focused on some of these big cases that take on a large degree of emotional salience. And justice and politics and the media do kind of develop these sort of fire tornadoes, right? That are divisive, that make us like particular names right now. If I hear particular names, I already know like someone's activated, like because that name come up and, right? And it's like, that's going to the store hungry for me. And I think that's another complicating human nature factor that I would rather design a system that's skeptical of human nature and our ability to fairly put someone to death and just err on the side of safety.
And by the way, I respect that impulse. It's part of the reason why I don't think like our conversation got heated or whatever. But there are some things that are just so like patently morally obvious to me. So for instance, like Anders Breivik, which I know it's Norway, so it's a completely different country, but like that man should not be alive. I Googled it after we were talking about it. He killed 77 people on purpose. He, even before the mass immigration waves of the 2010s, believed that Europe was too friendly to brown and Middle Eastern and North African immigrants. So he went to his version, number one, he detonated pipe bombs in downtown Oslo as a distraction. Then he went to their version of a like Democrat summer camp for future leaders of the Democratic Party of Norway. It's not literally called the Democrats, but it's their version of it. And it was on an island retreat. He took a boat to that island. He gathered everyone up in a like school circle, like a semicircle, in order to make them more easier. And he was pretending that he was going to talk to them about the pipe bombing in Oslo. And then he just started executing all of them. And because, Norway hasn't really fought a war since World War II, and because their culture isn't like a violent culture, allegedly, people just stood there like flabbergasted that he was doing it and just watched him do it. And he just lined up and shot 77 people. There is no reason for Anders Breivik to be alive.
This is besides the point, but am I mistaken, or did he not like start hunting people through the island afterwards? Like,
no, he did. Yeah,
I think
basically after he killed everybody that was available. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, he is like vile, anti-human trash. He should not be on this plane of existence anymore. He is only on this plane of existence through the grace and mercy of the Norwegian legal system, and the fact that he had the balls to bitch about having an outdated video game system and that being cruel for his incarceration, it boils my fucking blood. I wish I could go there and fucking handle it for Norway on my own, like Norway.
That being said,
Norway, call me.
I have to disagree, Michael, with your respectfully your premise, because why is something like Central Park 5 or the Polytechnic shooting, why is that more on my personal scale of things? Because that's my backyard. I'm not too far away from New York. The big Montreal Polytechnic shooting is actually right around the corner from me. Like, these things are in my backyard, in my country or my neighbor's country, and that is the constant machete attacks in I want to say Ghana or whatever, or the India-Pakistan conflict, whatever. Like, those I don't. I'm going to be straight with you. I don't really give a shit, because that's not my backyard. That's somebody else's. And I think that's why, although something might be more egregious in another country or somewhere around the other side of the world, the ones that hit home, although might not be as large scale or egregious in effect, it's more personal because it is my tribe, my community.
I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's totally natural human nature to want to care the most about your family, the things that are most, like the Milgram experiment from Yale does a great breakdown of this. When they did replication on the Milgram experiment, they redid it through a phone. I don't know if you guys know the experiment, but like it was the one where they make people take a test and it's a fake doctor and a fake person being electrocuted behind a wall to death.
Yeah.
And over half of the people would just keep hitting the button to kill them. And they recreate it where the doctor was standing further away, where the doctor would tell them what to do over a phone call. And the more distance you created, the more willing they were to like hurt people. And it's natural, it's adaptive for us to like care about those that are most salient to us morally. And I don't think that's unhealthy. That's normal human nature, right? I just think that when we're designing our justice systems, we should keep in mind,
be aware of the bias.
And just be aware that we can make ourselves a little nutty and crazy around court cases.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Well, I don't think anybody's arguing that I'm not a little nutty and crazy, but it is,
or just humans,
It is 11:17, and I have to be up at 9:30 a.m. to entertain my my audience. So do you guys have any saved rounds before I bid adieu?
I only wanted to sort of end my end by steel manning you a little bit, Connor, because I do think that there are some points where you could say like the implementation of the death penalty is like a justifiable thing and under very specific context. Like if I'm thinking about like the judgment at Nuremberg, like I feel like something like the death penalty was, I don't want to say a necessity because I don't know all the possible scenarios under which maybe we could have progressed as a society after World War II without it. But I do think that it was like the best solution that people came to in order to provide like some semblance of justice. And even then, a lot of Nazis got off like completely scot-free. So there was.
Oh yeah, I think. Sorry for interrupting, but one of the crazy things about Nuremberg is like Nuremberg was such a big deal, but I think we executed like less than 100 people. It was
Yeah,
it was not that
it
many.
was something like some people got off like extremely easy just because, you know, they were good at like the arguments they were putting forth of like, oh, I was just following orders and stuff like that. So
and also we didn't freak the fuck out. Like they went through these trials and largely dispassionately, like, were able to like get 100 people, make the examples. And I think in some sense there's some grace there happening to not kill thousands, right? Like, war is a weird legal zone too, and they were doing this new experimental crimes against humanity. They made that up, but it was needed, right? And like, I think it was like a nice surgical strike, you know, serving justice to me.
I just Googled it. Only 12 people were sentenced to death. One of them was sentenced in absentia, and one of them committed suicide the night before the execution. So they only hung 10 people, which is crazy when you consider the amount of fucked up shit that happened in World War II. But, you know,
and arguably, I would say that's also part of the reason why you got the Mossad, like, hunting down Eichmann and others. Like, afterwards, is because
and I'm not so sure that we the alliance side didn't freak out a little bit with the raising of Germany. Like, I mean,
little bit
horrible shit that went on afterward. But I mean, in the trials, yes, I would tend to agree. It was a little too lenient for my tastes.
No, there was definitely some intense shit. Like, even the TV series Band of Brothers, they had where members of Easy Company, after they took the what do they call it, like the Eagle's Nest, like Hitler's like vacation retreat or whatever, they a couple of them, they only really showed it once, but if they're willing to show it in the TV series based off of the memoirs of a single company during World War II, I'm sure it happened dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of times. But basically, after the war was over and some SS officers returned to their homes, Americans who were occupying the country but not at war sought out those SS officers and killed them in like extrajudicial executions. So yeah, it's kind of fucking wild
with their families.
Yeah. But I'm gonna dip out. I'm gonna go to bed. So I appreciate you guys. And if anybody here is not a part of my chat and they enjoyed the stream, I'll be live tomorrow on Counterpoints Politics at 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And then I'm live on VALOR Media Network the rest of the week. And then if you're into science fiction or science fantasy, I suppose, I got Counterpoints 40K. That's my biggest channel. I got Counterpoint Sci-Fi, which I'm currently breaking down The Expanse, but I also broke down Predator, and I will be breaking down the Alien series. And then I'm also doing Counterpoint Star Wars, where I've done all the Star Wars stuff chronologically, and I'm moving into Andor right now. So if you're like a huge fan of Andor and you want like a combination of like lore and psychological breakdowns, go check out Counterpoint Star Wars.
So awesome. I'm going to watch that.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, Connor.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Well,
what's up?
Well, I was going to say my wife just got home, so I might end this. I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you for a good debate there, Michael Hatch.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
I hope it was for fun for you.
I had a great time. That's cool.
Good. Yeah. About you, gentlemen, Real and Dr. Functional. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just happy I got Connor to concede on one front at least.
That was a plot twist.
Well played.
Yeah.
Attack a man's spirit of the law as opposed to the letter of the law. You know, you can kind of get some jabs there. I really appreciated how it was more discussion metered as opposed to, you know, argumentative. Like, you're going to argue your side no matter lie, cheat, and steal because you want the W, as opposed to let's suss out what are the good ideas, what are the bad ideas, where we should stand as a society, as a people. And I really appreciate that form of discussion over just trying to get the W. You know?
Yeah. Can I share a little about that? Like why I kind of want to have the conversation that way?
Please.
A long time ago, I used to be one of the moderators on the Change My View subreddit, and I was basically, my job was, I was allowed to be a moderator. I didn't moderate a lot, but I did the podcast. And so I don't know if you guys know the Change My View subreddit, but if your mind gets changed, there's a delta, and there's a heavily regulated rule set to like help people argue more constructively, right? So I would interview all the people each month who had the highest deltas, like, or who had changed their minds and were an OP on a high-ranking post. And there's about 30 episodes I did about upwards of about 10 years ago, I think. that are still up on my YouTube. And if you're interested in like the meta of discussion, they're really productive by 2015, 2016, 2017. Like, and it just taught me a lot about like, well, what's going to actually be useful here to talk about different topics versus, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't go in as an expert, but I was just super curious, and I care a lot about us having better political conversations. It's kind of like the core of what I care about most in politics. So, like, anyway, if you're wondering why, that's why. And yeah.
So there's harsh debate here from time to time, but most of my mission when I started this channel is I wanted people to communicate more effectively, to build bridges to understand, even if you disagree, and then you can thrash their idea later, but at the very least understand the ideas that you're contending with. I think that communication is the key, one of the most important things we've got. So,
yeah. And I would say that I've watched Connor for a while, and I've noticed he's pretty organized in his thinking, and he's not trying to distract or change topics deliberately, which I see happen a lot. Like he'll stick with you to work through a point, and I had confidence going in that it would be good faith, and it was. So I thought it was great. Yeah. So that was the other half. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, how do I? If you don't have time, don't worry about it. But like, if I was going to try and pivot this to like my YouTube, is it a complicated process? I got to go Google and learn.
It depends on whether or not you have like raids turned on. Like, are you talking about like I send it to you, or are you just talking about you continue on?
Like, I see people divert a thing to someone's feed, and if it's a super easy thing, I was like, can you send it to me just so I can see how it looks? Or if it's complicated, I'll look it up later.
So the feed, I can't. Yeah, multi-streaming, generally speaking, you would be like on mine, but running your own. And then what would happen is you could, like, these people who are on panel you could link in the back your StreamYard link or whatever, and they could just jump directly over there. I could end mine, and then you would just continue on yours as if nothing really happened. The other thing is raiding, which is like the chat is sent to another person's channel. So receiving raids has to be turned on in your YouTube account back end. And then the person who's raiding to you has to have 500 or more subscribers and be a brand account or a YouTube partner in order to do their rating. So
I'll look into it. I was just curious if you knew. Yeah. So
are you live now?
I didn't open my YouTube yet at all. So
okay. All right. So in the future, if you want to try it out, like the next time you come up, we can try it out if you're live at the same time.
Yeah, if we do something else like this, I'd love to, and I'll try it out next time with the actual YouTube. So cool.
Very cool.
But thanks for hosting. This was great.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thanks, Abe.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a place, and I'm going to send this off.
Ruby.
And I'm going to go hang out with my lady.
Have fun.
Since my wife has come home, so.
See you guys. I'll be checking your channel out, Michael.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's up to both.
Yeah,
it's actually funny that he was Counter was also a 40K channel because I'm big into 40K.
Oh, fun.
Thanks, Abe.
And Judge Dredd. All right, peace.
There we go. Have a good night, Michael. Good to see you. Have a good night. There's the end of the poll, ladies and gentlemen. I think I kind of already predicted that would happen internally. I think that most of my crowd has a harsh justice version of this. They do believe that the death penalty is needed. I bet, though, most of you would agree that you want it to be fine-tuned enough that we have the minimization of as many innocent deaths as possible. But there has to be some judgment for those who do the most heinous things, and we can prove it. So with that, I'm going to.
What's the poll?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm looking at your. I was looking at only at StreamYard just now, and I realized you had the poll up in your. I'm so sorry.
So I did a pre-poll. Of are you for or against the death penalty, and most people said they were for. And then I asked who made a better argument, Counterpoints or Michael Hatch, to yes and no for death penalty, and they said yes for death penalty. But
okay, is that the Cash App link? Is that no? Sorry, that's of course not.
No. It was just a poll in the YouTube chat.
Oh, weird. It's not. Okay, whatever. Cool. I'll see if I can open it. But have a good one, man.
All right. You
Cheers.
too. Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send this off. I'm not even sure who I'm sending it to.
You can get it Dusty if you want. I was just over there earlier.
I'm going to give it to a smaller creator because
Cool.
I think that oftentimes they need that boost more than I do.
That's thoughtful.
More than the bigger creator does, I mean.
For sure.
Let me see. What do we got? Let's see. To who, Smoking Spaceman? Send me a link, Smoking Spaceman. Let me see this here. Oh. Okay. All right. That's what I'll do. I'll just send it off here. I can find my own thing. There we go. All right, chat. I'm going to leave you with a song while I set up this raid over. God bless you all. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you Wednesday evening if I'm not on tomorrow. Have a good one, Michael.
Peace.
The sun, stovepipe straight, beard like a wire, eyes like thunder, voice like fire, that buried the truth in 65. But the man came back just to testify. No halo, no ghost, no holy show, just a Dinkus walking tall and slow. I don't want your drama, I don't want your spin, I don't want the lies that the lies live in. Give me the raw truth, cut it clean with a blade. Abe Dinkus is back. Don't make me say it again. No flags to wave, no teams to cheer, just honest words in a dishonest year. From the grave I wrote for one simple thing, the truth, the whole truth. Let freedom reign. I see the towers, I see the screens, divided